Good morning, good morning, good morning. And no, I'm not late. I'm fashionably, I get here when I feel like it. No, I'm just kidding. I love you guys for waiting for a couple of minutes. I did have some background stuff going. Context, though, context. Welcome back to Rise and Shine College Football. I'm your host, Jason Watkins. And if you love college football, you know you're in the right place. So before you forget, smash that red subscriber button, like our videos, and don't forget to ring the bell so you don't miss one moment of Hall of Fame college football. Welcome into the show, everybody. Kimberly K, thank you for letting me know. Subtle there. Subtle. I liked it. Good stuff. Hankster, welcome in. Kobe Neal, like it. Jackson Arnold is a top 5 QB in the nation right now. Well, yeah. I don't think that's crazy. I don't think that's crazy talk. Kimberly K, stink-ass cat. Who else we got in here? Justin, thank you for coming in. 5 till midnight. And Calvin Glover. Oh, good. We have our first detractor. Tough with the O-line. No, maybe you're not detracting too much. Listen, it's not as bad as you think, though. Not as bad as you think, folks. It's all good. Welcome into Rise and Shine College Football. Make sure you wipe your feet. Check in when you get here. And appreciate everybody being here this morning. Good morning, 5 till midnight. Thanks for coming in. Appreciate it. Yo, everyone. Yo, Mr. Jason. Thank you for the super chat. Appreciate it, Neilio. All righty. Guys, wanted to get in. This is what I want to go ahead and talk about. T-Boomer, my man. What's up, dude? This is definitely what we want to talk about. And I mean, I have been getting nothing but wild comments and lots of views on that video from the other day when we were talking about how it wasn't the sky is falling and everything and what's going on. And context does matter, folks. It just does. It just does. I know I've been saying it a lot. I know I've been busting chops. It is what it is. But if you paid attention to everything, and this is what I mean by context matters, there's more than one thing involved in everything we're talking about when it comes to football. When it comes to this team, you have to look at more than one angle. You can't just look at the fact of, okay, here we go. What about the Temple D penetrating the line and putting the O in long yards? Look, it wasn't happening a whole lot early when you have the injuries and the shuffling that went around. They're trying to see what they have in certain places. They don't have film on a lot of these guys working within this system. There's your context for that offensive line, okay? As we talked about on the show, Coach Ricks, welcome in, my man. Coach Ricks was in here to help me with that video that is now up over, I think, around 4,000 views, where we talked about this. The fact of the matter is once you had the center go down, you didn't have the backup center, Joshua Bates, come in, who was in contention to win that position way into fall camp, well into fall camp. And we're talking about a redshirt freshman when we're talking about Joshua Bates. He didn't come in to play. They put Garen Hatchett into play. And because they want to see what they have there in an emergency situation, if they needed to use him. He's generally a guard. That's what he played at Washington. He was kind of a backup in that situation. He's not going to start at that position either right now. That's Fabichi Wewu's spot on the right side. When you didn't have, what was it, Jake Taylor, who should have been your starting right tackle. He wasn't there. They went to the third stringer there as well, which would have been Spencer Brown. I think we all know that we don't want Spencer Brown there now because he didn't do a great job. That was where a lot of the penetration was coming. You know, you had a lot through the A gap because of the center position, and then you've got it right there. He did not have the speed to be able to handle what was coming around that. You know, we're talking about a big dude well up over 300 pounds, and he didn't have any kind of speed. He had lead feet. Look, and I'm not even trying to hate on Spencer Brown. I think it was made clear he's probably better at guard here. But until you put that into live game situations, you don't know for sure. That's what they were trying to do. You heard that from Coach Venables. You also heard him say that he didn't want to throw a lot of crazy routes. Once you got Jalil Farouk hurt, he broke his foot. He's out 6 to 8 weeks. Now you're saying, okay, we've got depth there at the wide receiver position, but why are we going to risk that? So he didn't do it, especially in view of the fact that they could do nothing to stop Oklahoma. And something that Coach Rick said, and I don't think I caught it great whenever we were actually recording that video. But if you're Temple and you know you have no way in hell of stopping this Oklahoma offense, no matter what, the only way you can is to pin your ears back and go get the quarterback. You don't have a secondary that's going to stick with any of these receivers. If they are going downfield, more than likely you're going to have a hard time. So you can throw everything but the kitchen sink at them to do. That's all you possibly could do. Okay, there's context as well. So did they get to him more than we would like to see? Of course. But until you know that, until you know the limitations of these players, and we're not even talking about, there's 2 players we talked about that we're not in the 2 deep at those positions that they're in there. It's not helpful. They needed to make sure that, this was a dress rehearsal, guys. There's no 2 ways around it. It was a freaking dress rehearsal. Okay. That's all there is to it. But when you look at this situation, and part of the reason that I brought some of this kind of stuff up is I think that there's a couple of things. Do not make yourself. Was that sticking up on the screen? I didn't even watch that. Coach Rick, you dog. You sure it's not take your shoes off, make yourself comfortable? No, it isn't. No. Wipe your feet. Don't take your funky feet out of your shoes so you can stank up my house. Come on now. Come on, Coach. All right. Well, Calvin Glover, welcome into the show anyway. I hope that you enjoy. I'm not going to pay a ton of attention to negativity, but I do want to kind of talk about some of this stuff because of the fact that we're literally talking about a game that was 51-3. 51-3. The one thing that they could do was try to pin their ears back and haul ass in there as quick as they can and get him off platform. You know what that did? Not much. He still completed 17 of 25 passes, and he had four of them were dropped. Those were right in the hands of the receivers, okay? Right in the hands of the receivers. You drop those balls. If you don't drop those balls, that's 21-25 overall. The numbers, you can look at the numbers however you want. The fact is the defense, they gave up very little, under 200 yards, and they forced 6 turnovers. A lot of short fields and they weren't going downfield deep other than one other time after they hit Farouk, and that bounced right off of J.J. Hester's hands, right off his hands. Another one on the money, over 40 yards in the air ball. This is a ball that you didn't see get completed much the last 2 years. You just didn't. So that's one of those things. Jason put Benji in timeout and get out the way. Oh, I didn't even know he was here yet, but I will. You're welcome. All right. Welcome into the show, Benji. Good to see you. Mars James, T Boomer. Let's see. What else we got? Hangster. No, you're good. Hey, man, some of these guys are, they don't. No, funky feet, bro. I've been in enough locker rooms. I know better. Not a lot of teams are going to take that chance because they'll get burnt. Exactly. Well, and that's the thing. If you're not going to be able to get home, and you got to think about it, even that first pass that this was a 47-yard pass. He was probably in the air. He was already 5 yards behind. Took probably another 5 behind that. So you're looking at least 10 more yards. So it was about 57 yards strike right on the money, throwing Farouk open. And you know what? He was basically falling down when he did it. That's what you call arm talent. Okay. But no, they had no other thing to do. And they weren't covering him then. Farouk was already burning that guy. That's the whole thing, is that you've got a secondary out there that they had nothing for that receiving core. Even the guys that we're not even talking about a lot of starters. JJ Hester, not a starter. Farouk would have been, probably would have been one of your slot guys. Or I think he was in the starter position. I'll have to look back at that. But I hope you're back in, Benji. I'll just bust your balls. The season means a lot. Sure. Okay. Look, but I'm not saying that it doesn't. What I'm telling you is how many times have you seen this when it comes to the Oklahoma offensive line? That early on, and particularly right now, we're in a different era of college football, folks. We are in a different era of college football. And if you looked around the SEC this weekend, what did you see in terms of great offensive lines? You saw some that looked good at times. Even Georgia wasn't overly dominant. In fact, that was the one thing Clemson could do, was stop the run, especially in that first half. Now, once they hit the edges, they did better, right? But I would tell you that there is a bunch of this stuff that's going on. Yep, I like that one too. There's a bunch of this stuff that's going on that you look at what LSU was. How are they going to, aside from Harold Perkins, what are they going to do to get pressure on Jackson, particularly by that time of the year? Again, I think that if you look back at the Jake Taylor situation, he's going to play this weekend. He could have played last weekend. If this was an SEC game, they're not experimenting like that. They're not. But in the early part of this year, especially in view of the fact that once you moved into the SEC, now they took away the Georgia game because, they're a conference opponent, and that was going to be a non-con game. 2 years in a row. This would have been the second year of that. Now, next year you go up against a Michigan. Yeah, you're probably going to want to make sure that you're a little short up, right? You're going to want to do that. Wherever you're at, you're going to, because that they're going to have a nasty D-line. They just are. That's what they do. So they're going to bring pressure, and they also have one of the better secondaries in the country, or at least they do this year. We'll see kind of where they go from here. But look, man, we're talking about a program that we're going to find out a lot about them this weekend when you see them take on Texas. Now, Jackson, here's where I want to go ahead and get into some of this other stuff. And we don't have to keep on rewriting all this stuff and talking about the same thing. Also, a lot of teams in the SEC man-to-man. I think OU receivers are waiting on that. Yeah. And here's the thing, and we kind of talked about that too, Coach. I like it that you are bringing that back up as well. In man, you have to be a lot better than your opponent more times than not. And the truth is, you're going to have some secondaries. I think that, probably the best secondary in the SEC, aside from maybe Oklahoma's, would be Georgia's. You got Malachi Starks back there. There's some guys that are unproven, but they're good. They're good. It's what they do, right? You've got some rating services, as Bryce was telling me this morning, that have them ahead of Oklahoma. You have Phil Steele and some of the other ranking systems that they have Oklahoma in front. Same with the linebacker situation. Different, we're going to find out. We're going to find out more about the D-line rankings later on in the year. I think a lot of that was based on the fact that you had some freshmen in there that they weren't really expecting to be that good, so they were outside of the top 20. But if you're somewhere ranking from 2 to, I've seen as high up as 10 for the secondary, and somewhere around the same probably for the linebackers, that means you've got a solid unit back there. There's not a ton of those teams out there, though. I think out of the teams that Oklahoma plays, Ole Miss is going to be another one of them. You have to expect that Alabama will be as well. They looked really good against a really good aerial attack, although it was come from Western Kentucky. Not exactly the same. But they're going to do some things that's going to put you in jeopardy with their offense and their scheming coming out of the air raid. It was a good test for Alabama, I think, last weekend on what they're going to do. Now, when you start looking at Georgia, they don't play Georgia unless they get them in the SEC championship game. So you're going to go up against, you've heard that Tennessee, they struggle in their secondary. That's a concern for them. If they're not making sure that they get home, then what? You know, you're gonna if they are pinning their ears back like that, and they are able to get home, then you start running the ball against that, and that takes a lot of those guys that's going to back them off because they don't want to get they don't want to get beat gashed up the middle either. I'm just telling you, there's some things that obviously these guys are going to scheme to do a lot better. And the one thing I would tell you about Tennessee is, yeah, I like their defensive line, but I like mainly one guy on their defensive line. When it comes to Alabama, you got to like what they have. Their D line, one of the deepest in the country. So their question is also in the secondary. It's more not having a ton of experience on the field versus talent, because, that's what Alabama does, is go get amazing talent, right? But in the end, how many times this year are you going to go up against a D-line that's going to completely overwhelm a Bill Bedenbaugh offensive line? Because I would tell you that by the time Tennessee shows up, it's not going to matter. They're going to have it right, and he's going to be able to do some things to get it right. And these guys the other part is improvement goes on from week to week. If you are as good week 1 as you are week 4, you're probably not that damn good. That's how it is. That's just how it is. Yeah, I was just busting your chops there, Benji. My bad. Hester is one big confidence-creating catch from being a difference maker. I just hope it's before the LSU game. Look, I don't know how much time they're gonna give him. He's been there for a couple of years. I know you've had some injuries there, but yeah, it's not like it's one game, it's one missed catch. I mean, we were saying a lot of the same stuff about Jaden Gibson going into last season, that it looked like he had a confidence problem, and if that was gonna happen, you can't have that happen if you're an Oklahoma player. If you catch one and you get a touchdown, great. And he's got a big body. It's not like he can't be that guy, but you're not going to have as much leeway, I think, as Jaden Gibson had, now that you have the depth and the amount of talent in that wide receiver room that Oklahoma has. Somebody just brought up in here Ivan Carrion. We're talking about a dude that's 6'6" and super fast. He could probably play tight end as well, but they hadn't moved him there yet. So we're going to see what happens there. I think you've got some other guys that I expect that Jacquez Petaway is probably going to find his way onto the field a little more now that you've gotten the couple of injuries that you ended up with. He was kind of come in behind Jalil Farouk anyway. Probably expect to see more of him now. I would expect that. And then, of course, Nick Anderson coming back. That's the other thing. You didn't even have him in the lineup. It's not that he couldn't have played either. It's that he didn't play because they weren't going to take any risks for a game like Temple. I don't know that Houston's going to be any better, to be quite honest with you. So you're probably going to get a lot of the same kind of looks, and you may end up getting a lot of the same kind of stuff with the line. Apparently, Jake Taylor will be back. There's a possibility that you might get Hatcher might be back. I'm not sure as far as what we found out in the last couple of days. But, yeah, why are you acting like the coaches and players don't know it means a lot? Yeah, I mean, that's where I just don't understand a lot of times, guys. That's where I don't understand a lot of the time, is that these guys, Brent Venables is like the most intense dude you've ever seen. And this team wants to be great. And Garen's defense, he came in and said he's got to play better. It's the expectation is to be better. He knows that. This is Oklahoma. And I think I know that this team is sick and tired of all these narratives and stuff. And I think a lot of that too, when you start looking at this again, I say it all the time, you've got to put context into all this stuff we're talking about. Is there a question there? Sure there is. But I would ask you, do you not feel like it's been – I love Zion Kearney. Matt, great question. Great question. Love it. I'm big on him too. A lot of people are big on him. Coach Sean from the Just My Humble Opinion show was talking about him it's been a couple of weeks, but I was on his show and he brought it up. He was like, "Man, y'all gonna love that dude." So I don't know exactly why he knew that, but he had been watching him some as well. I think, and obviously they were, he was recruited by other big time programs other than OU. But again, you have to look at a lot of different things. And how much track record do you really have to have before we start giving Bill Bedenbaugh the benefit of the doubt? I mean, literally, Tyler Guyton just he was one of the top guys to go in the draft in the first round. 2 years ago, the guy was on the bench at TCU playing defensive line. And he's the number one offensive tackle right now, as far as the ratings are concerned, in all of the NFL as a rookie. Number 2, a 6th round pick, also from Oklahoma. Guys, you have to look at this in more. There's a lot to it. Look, the bottom line is he's going to find out who's the best man for the job, and he doesn't just give these positions away. But when they knew that there was nothing that Temple could really do to stop them in any way, they went even more conservative than they would have been anyway. Ran a lot of short routes, run the ball a little more. I mean, you can say what you want, but the truth is they still ended up with 200 rushing yards. It is what it is, but there is context to be added to all this. And this is where it brings me to the quarterback situation. I think a lot of times, and I was talking a little bit about this to Coach Roybal yesterday. I talked a little bit about this to Bishop Frank yesterday as well. What's up there, Jimmy Satterfield and Matt Bingham? Thank you for that. Once Caden Helms gets comfortable, I feel like dude, I agree. I agree, Braylon. Welcome into the show. Welcome into the show, man. I think the line on Houston is 27. It will go up before Saturday. Yeah. Well, we saw kind of what they look like against UNLV. Now, UNLV, I would tell you, is a little better than a lot of people are giving them credit for. But when you go on the road like that, and we're still talking about a group of 5 or group of 6 school. They shouldn't have been able to stay on the field with Houston, or they shouldn't have blown Houston out for sure. That's what they did. Now, there's a lot to like about what UNLV is doing, though. They've got a really good coach. They've got a really good offensive coordinator. We know all about that. But Willie Fritz, in the first year of rebuilds for him, it seems like he struggles a bit, but he'll always put up a game where he competes, like kind of how he did against Oklahoma when he was at Tulane. They only won 2 games that year, but they were 2 points away from beating OU. There's a lot of reasons probably for that, though. Again, context. You should look at a lot of different contexts when you look at that, but I would tell you that I like Willie Fritz a lot. He's going to get a lot out of this team by the end of the year. They may not be as bad as they look right now, because nobody should be as bad as they look at the first of the season in any way, shape, or form. The other thing I would tell you is we cannot overestimate what happened, either good or bad, in week 1. A lot of stuff is getting worked out. And I'm just telling you, you can tell that they are very cognizant of what they're doing and what they want to do. Everything is planned out within this team. You can tell that Venables is very involved in what the game planning on offense is going to be, which is kind of wild because he hadn't really done that the first couple of years. It was all autonomy on that side of the ball. He is making sure that and that's, to me, is a great sign, because it means he's letting Zach Alley do his thing. Zach Alley is that guy, man. And he's been ranked very highly by a lot of these. We talked to the CFB professor. Their analytics model had him as one of the top 15 and really one of the best young defensive coordinators around. But he said he's top 15 in the country. And he's only been doing it for a few years. That Jacksonville State defense was nasty. They're going to do some good things. Now, yeah, 5 million. Welcome in. Yeah, UNLV did crush them. But that doesn't, again, Benji, you're talking about it like game 1 means everything the whole way around. I don't think that they're going to be that good. I'm with you on that. I think Oklahoma should blow them out. They should. They will. I'm almost positive of it. But you got to look at some of these coaches and what they do everywhere that they are. At some point, Houston's going to get pretty good. That's really fertile recruiting ground down there. Now they are in a power conference. Just a couple of years ago, they looked really good when they were still in the AAC. You know, I mean, it is what it is. I think that a lot of these now Power 4 schools, you know, you start talking about Cincinnati. Are they going to be better this year? They could be. I'm not sure that I love Coach Satterfield as much as, you know, I just don't know that that was the guy. But some people are higher on him than I am. Then BYU, we know, you know what I think of Kalani Sitake. He's that guy. I just think that he's going to get there. And then UCF, man, with their recruiting grounds, and then, you know, having KJ Jefferson, I think they're another one of those teams that's going to compete there. I do think that over the coming years, as he's able to get in there and get his feet underneath him, that Willie Fritz takes a backseat to really no coach in the country. He's another one of those guys that's one of the better coaches in the country, period. What was Tulane before he got there? He didn't bring a lot of those guys with him. And you get them next week. So this is going to be, you're going to get a little bit more of a test with that game. That's good. Coming down the stretch, I think that that's going to be good. And you got to be careful not to be looking ahead, because you open the SEC season a week later with Tennessee. Now, let's get into some of this other stuff. Hey, what's up there, Kobe Neal? Season doesn't start till September 21. I would agree with that, as long as you don't lose going into that. Sooner. What's up there, Aaron Blevins? Welcome in. Boomer 129. Kobe Neal saying 55-3. Better get Fritz and his Cougs now. Yeah, Neilio says they won't get pushed around for long, and he's already recruiting well. No, I agree. He's going to be, man, and one of the first things you know he's going to do is get a quarterback. You know, I think that the Big 12 is on notice. It's what a nice league that is, really. I mean, I don't see any of these teams really going super deep in a 12-team playoff and really competing for the national title. Maybe you get one or two teams every once in a while that's going to do that. But top to bottom in the league, I don't think there's a ton of separation from any of them. I think that BYU is probably down right now, but Kalani Sitake, again, great coach. They have to get a little more depth, and I don't know what I think about their signal caller right now. We'll see. Speaking of signal callers. All right. So the conversation that we were having the other day, it obviously went from the offensive line, as you can see, you know, they haven't. Well, we'll see. I mean, you have to do it at some point. But TCU, when Sonny got there, he was able to go and do it with the portal. There's going to be some moves that they're going to make, but I would tell you they're good. Again, we were talking about the offensive line, okay? And a lot of the things that were going wrong, I've got so many freaking comments on these videos the last couple of days, talking a lot like some of these other guys, like what did we just see, in here? Some of the things that we're hearing from the guys that have already popped in here. But saying stupid stuff like Jackson Arnold ain't it. We're going to win 5 games. Coming off of a 51-3 win, it's a 5-win team, no better. And I heard this from a guy that comes on this show quite often. I haven't seen him in here since he said that crap. But, I mean, these are the kind of things that you start hearing. What's up there, Sooner Brandon? Good to see you. More, I had somebody else, and one of the guys that was in here last night that was saying 7 wins. And I mean, and again, we're talking about a game where Jackson went 17-25. They were pinning their ears back because they had no other way to even try to affect the game. And they still scored 51 points. 44 on the offensive side. I mean, that's just by saying that because and really nobody really says anything about he's just, like one guy was telling me I could just tell he's not that guy. you could see it on Baker Mayfield right away. Now that's bullshit and I know it's bullshit because I could hear and listen to people all the way going back then that were saying that all the way to his senior year when he won the Heisman and went number one, there were people around the program that did not love Baker Mayfield. He's a legend now. And we forget about the people that wanted him not in the game, even going into the Tennessee game, where he made that comeback. And once they were down, they really didn't want him in. There was a lot of questions there too, right? But in talking about this stuff, it's tough. It really is because Billy, I'm going to get to you in a minute. In talking about this stuff, it's hard because when you're trying to combat silly talk and you want to interact with the people in the comment section. Look, I appreciate the fact that you guys are watching the content. I really do. Some of it gets tough, and there's some guys that you just can't bother talking to them because it is just going to be negativity. And some people, the sky is falling all day, every day. It doesn't matter what's going on. They're going to look at the negative side of anything they can. A la a 51-3 freaking win that they were never pushed in. But you look at the few little negatives that you can find and you blow it up into this thing that now it's not about the offensive line. It's about the quarterback sucks. The quarterback that was a 5-star plus won the Elite 11 and was named High School Player of the Year by Gatorade 2 years ago. He sucks now. Last year, it was Dylan Gabriel that sucked. He's like one of the leaders for the Heisman Trophy this year at Oregon, but we hated him. I'm not saying it's everybody because, in fact, most of the people that are in this audience that are in here on our live shows are not this way, right? They're just not. But in talking about this stuff, and I knew we were going to get to some of this, but you run the risk of maybe somebody sees it on Twitter and they don't catch it right as soon as you're talking about it. And it's not that I'm saying anything about Michael Watkins, who, by the way, I think the dude is unbelievable. And I would agree. There's other people, obviously some of the people in that comment section, that they're already calling for Watkins. He needs to be the guy. You can see it on him. The same stuff, of course, that you were hearing last year about Jackson instead of Dylan. Okay. Now, I would tell you that when it comes to Jackson and Dylan, there is a clear difference in the floor and the ceiling of those two players. Right? I don't think there's a very clear difference between Jackson and Michael Watkins. Probably very little, right? If there is one, it's going to be in the speed that you get from Michael Watkins. And then a lot of people are thinking that he's not as good a passer as Jackson. We don't know that because they haven't thrown the ball a whole lot with him. He was 2 of 4 the other day. There were short passes. His completions, they were 4.5 yards per catch, something like that, or per completion. But he didn't get a lot of opportunities. He also didn't get a ton of opportunities in the spring game. But from everything you hear from the people that are at practice daily, watching these guys go up against everybody else, you heard Gabe Eichert say that he was better than Caleb Williams early on in the spring. That's a big compliment. A big compliment. So, what does that cause? All right. Now, I don't know that I disagree with that. And I was actually one of the first people that was talking good about Michael Watkins when he was in high school. Because if you remember right, he was a 3-star on a lot of boards. A lot of boards. He went from Allen, which is where Kyler Murray played, to Frisco Emerson, and nobody was thinking a ton of them. He just goes out there and has 55, something like that, 55 touchdowns and 2 or 3 turnovers on the season. Unbelievable player. The school was 4 freaking years old. They had their first graduating class. He was in it. And he takes them all the way to the semifinal. They put up a hell of a game against South Oak Cliff. Oak Cliff ends up winning that one in the semifinal round of the 5A playoffs. They win their second straight state championship. There is no way in hell without Michael Hawkins that they get that far with that football team. And I'm not saying that the rest of the team isn't good, but there's no way that you can put that kind of talent together in that short of amount of time and really go through and compete. It just doesn't happen, man. It's like doing it in the SEC. You're not going to do it right away. We're just talking about Houston in the Big 12. It's not going to happen right away. They had to break it down to the studs just like Oklahoma had to once Venables got here. So you start looking at this, and I'm telling you, I was saying it then, this guy is that dude. I remember somebody's talking about Kevin Sperry, which I like Kevin Sperry a lot. You want to talk about a guy that throws a ball. And they were saying that he would be the next guy after Jackson. I was like, you're out of your mind if you think, I don't remember who it was, but this was last year. And I told them they were out of their damn mind if they thought that he was going to jump over Michael Hawkins. No way in hell. There's no way in hell. I just don't see it. Aside from an injury, he just brings another thing to the table, right? Now, Jackson can run a little bit. You know, he's mobile. He's not a guy that's just, cement shoes or anything like that. That's not who he is. But he doesn't run in the 4.3s, high 4.3s, low 4.4s. He doesn't. So, and I would tell you that Hawkins also has a cannon. Is he as accurate as Jackson? I don't know. Again, we haven't seen a ton of that. The point I'm trying to make is, if somebody just jumps into the conversation right now, let's just say that they maybe started they're watching this video right here, but they catch it when I was talking about what he did in the playoffs and stuff like that, and his skill set and how good he is. Now, who's to say they don't know what I said before that? They don't know how I set any of that up. But immediately they're probably saying, oh shit, he's calling for Jackson Arnold's job. No, he's not. No, he's not. And just like the other day when Coach Ricks and I were talking about the people that are calling for Jackson's job already in the comment section, because it had already been going on. And I said that they were out of their freaking mind. Now, I said they were out of their mind. That didn't mean that I thought two things can be true at the same time. It does not mean that I think that Michael Hawkins is not capable of coming in and leading this team and winning a lot of games, getting to the playoff, doing everything that you possibly think you might do with Jackson Arnold, maybe more because he's got a little bit more speed. It's not a guarantee, though. And we've seen an awful lot of times that freshmen may or may not be ready for it. Now, the person that was jumping on my butt on Twitter yesterday, it was probably because of that. Or he wasn't jumping on my butt. He just wanted to make sure that I knew how good Michael Hawkins was. And that if said something about if Venables, a Hall of Fame coach like that, probably knows what he's talking about when he says this guy is capable of playing right now. And I agree. I agree 1,000%. And I've never said anything bad about Michael Hawkins. And I wasn't saying anything bad about Michael Hawkins then. I was saying that going off of what we just saw, to want him to lose his job is crazy. That's it. We don't have enough information for that. And the people that are knee-jerk reacting to that extent, I think it's nuts. Because guess what? Jackson Arnold is already, somebody just said it in here earlier, already one of the best quarterbacks in the country. He's got more arm talent. Point out some people that got more, because I don't know who they are. I like Carson Beck a lot. I don't know if his arm talent's better than that. Jackson Dart? Nope. Maybe Nussmeier. Maybe, I don't know about Nico. I mean, he dropped out of the Elite 11 before they got to the finals, but he would have been a finalist. But all the other guys there, Malachi Nelson, even Dante Moore. Dante Moore's got serious arm talent, and I watched him in the high school All-American game in San Antonio. Serious arm talent. He didn't beat him either. There's a lot of really good quarterbacks in that class. Another one being Arch Manning, but he didn't compete in any of those, so you don't really know, right? We've seen him throw the ball. He's pretty good. Now, at some point, one will not be content being number 2. That's correct. That's correct. That point is not right now, though, Billy. That point is not today. It would be today if Jackson was number 2 right now. And here's where the context comes in. I've told you guys how many times I've said this over and over and over again that I really don't concern myself with this offense whatsoever. Why do I not? First of all, I'm not going to get back into the O-line stuff. You guys can argue with a wall about it for all I care. If you want to argue about that, go argue with your mom. I don't care. I know what they're going to do, and so do you. But some people just want to bitch and complain. I get it. Okay, they're going to be fine there. They also have one of the best wide receiver rooms in the country, even after the couple of injuries that they've got early on in this thing. They've been recruiting as good as anybody in the country. Now, I know Brian Hartline gets all the love up there at Ohio State. I get it. I don't know that I like their receiving room better than I like Oklahoma's, other than apparently this Jeremiah Smith kid is all that. All right, we've heard this before, right? We've heard this before. I would tell you that Ohio State's receiver room wasn't the best one last year. I don't even know if it was the second best one. I think LSU's was right there, and I know Washington's was all that. So it is what it is. I like Marvin Harrison Jr. as much as anybody else, but nobody, the rest of them guys showed me a ton. So again, wide receiver talent. Now, we also have a running back room that if you're going to actually utilize it as you should, and I think that that's coming, everything that we've heard from the players, from the coaches, everybody is that they're committed to running the ball. You have to be committed to running the ball. So that also is, I mean, you're not going to be blitzing all the time if you're getting a steady dose of run game. And they have running backs that can break it off. You got Gavin Sawchuk, which I love it. He didn't look as good the other day, but man, Javonte Barnes sure looks like the guy that we saw as a freshman. And Taylor Tatum. I think he's that guy that might end up being a starter pretty early in his career here. All those comparisons that you've heard from guys like Josh McCuistion, who has said he reminds him so much of Joe Mixon. You could see it the other day. Simple little cuts. He doesn't seem like he's ever in a big rush to do anything. And man, he eats up a lot of those little white lines. They've got somebody just talked about, and I like this one too. I want to make sure I give it to the right person though. Man, there's a lot of people in here, huh? Welcome in, everybody. Welcome in. Let's see. Dang it. Way back here. Who was it that was talking about the tight end situation? Look, Bauer Sharp looked really good the other day, right? Really good. And you could end up in a situation where I think that Devon Mitchell, I don't know how he's coming along just yet. He really should be a high school senior right now. Braylon. Yeah, Braylon was talking about Caden Helms. Caden Helms is, and he's probably as hungry as they get right now. Having 2 years where you have the same injury on different legs, the same injury though. So he's having to go through nothing but getting rid. But he looks like, man, he can be that guy. The tight end position is a big helper, especially for a young quarterback. But if you paid attention to what you saw the other day, he didn't get really rattled, even though they were pinning their ears back and coming at him, right? Like I said, the 57 yards in the air, that ball went somewhere in the neighborhood of that he connected on with Jalil Farouk. And it was on the money. How many times did you see that from Dylan Gabriel last year where he was that a receiver didn't have to stop and come back on a deep ball? A lot of it had to do with timing, but most of it had to do with he just didn't have the arm. Not only did he have the arm to get that ball out there, he did that being hit, and he was kind of rolling out to the right side of the pocket, getting chased out of it, not on a – it was an off-platform throw, and it was a strike. I haven't seen anybody make a throw like that in a while. The one that he threw at J.J. Hester, pretty damn good throw too, man. He just dropped it. You know, you can't have that, but I think that, again, it's one game. Well, I don't think you want to pull the plug on JJ just yet, but you got to catch the football, man. You got to catch the football. Again, you got to make sure that you're, you know, I'm going to keep on saying the word. I'm going to keep on saying the word. Context is important. Context is important. They were in zero danger of losing that football game the other day. They literally won 51-3. It could have been 100-3 if they just stepped, if they really wanted to show their teeth. It could have been 100-3. They didn't try to go deep against the secondary that couldn't cover them. They put in linemen that they probably knew weren't good enough to be the starter, and certainly, or probably knew they weren't good enough to be a second teamer at that spot, and certainly weren't good enough to be a starter there. Why would they do that? Because they want to see what they get out of them in live game situations where you're not just going up against your teammates. So, going back to the quarterback thing, it's as simple as this, guys. It's just not his turn yet. I wasn't saying anything bad about Michael Hawkins, and I'll tell you what, I don't know that he's not going to be better than Jackson at some point. He might be. But here's the thing that you have to remember. You keep hearing from Brent Venables that they are going to carve out a role for him, that they have a feeling that they need to have him in games. Yeah, I can tell you now, they could give a shit about his redshirt year. Don't care at all. At this point, with the way things are with the transfer portal and everything like that, you don't do that. You just can't. You cannot do that if you're a head coach, and particularly with quarterbacks. When they're ready to play, you got to play them. Here's the other thing, though. So you heard him saying about that, okay, we feel like we're going to need both of them this year in some capacity. Okay, so that means to me that they're trying to find a role to where you're going to still start Jackson, but you know that you need to get him some experience, number one. And there's a couple of things that he can do, like that speed option play that he ran with Taylor Tatum that was a walk-in touchdown, right? Would it have been a walk-in against an SEC defense? Probably not, but it still probably would have been a touchdown because you got two guys that are with big-time speed that are both threats. They're both threats. So probably still get a touchdown out of that. That's a situation that you want him in on. It's not a belldozer type of thing. You know he can throw the ball too. I think that they have certain situational stuff that they're probably going to want to do, and they're going to want to have Hawkins in for that. I love it. Not only do you get him some needed experience in case of an injury, but you might get something out of him that's just a little bit different look. Not saying better, not saying worse, a different look. And that doesn't hurt anything to give them something that they haven't seen before. It could be critical in a big game. A big game on the road at a place like Ole Miss. A big game at home against somebody like Alabama, who looked really damn good on offense the other day. Again, they're playing against Western Kentucky. I'm not going to go overboard with that, but they did what they were supposed to do with them too. They, what was it, 60-something to nothing? They're still good. Now, but in order, so that's saying that I love it that they're going to do that. And then he's talking about that for a reason. And that's what this person was telling me in my DMs on Twitter. And I was like, yeah, I agree. I agree completely that he's that guy. I don't know who, I feel like you're saying that you think that I'm not on Team Hawkins here. And that's not true. Because here's the thing. I do believe that he can be that guy. I think that you guys have been here, have heard this before from me. I know you have, that I don't want to see Casey Thompson unless it's during a game that say you were to get Jackson hurt. I don't mind you breaking the glass right there because of his experience. Say you're in the lead, you want to try to hold on to that lead. He's got experience to maybe help you do that. Then again, maybe you do, maybe you don't. But if it's a situation where Jackson's hurt for any amount of time past that initial game that he gets hurt in, I don't want to see Casey in there. I want to see Michael Hawkins. He's the future of this team, and he may be the president of this team if in that situation. And I don't think there's a question that that's what's going to happen. I think that they're signaling that the whole way coming out of that coaching staff because they are trying to get him in there. Now, you don't really have to do that. Coach Ricks made a good point about this the other day. You don't have to do that with Casey because this is his 7th year in college, and he's played a lot of football. So you know that he can handle whatever you put in front of him, right? Look, there were times he looked really good at Texas. There was times he looked really good at Nebraska. I mean, he looked good enough at Texas that Tom Herman liked him enough to bring him down to where he was out there in Florida. You know, unfortunately, he got hurt. In the end, I don't know that it's the same thing. I mean, we're not talking about the same thing. We're talking about a guy that's probably had his time versus a guy that's ready to have his. Now, what you don't do, though, is just go and jerk Jackson out without a real reason. And to do it after a 51-3 game when they didn't have their number one offensive line intact, they could have had a better line than they put out there. But he goes out there and completes a high percentage, could have been even higher, and 4 touchdowns. That's not exactly how you would want to do that. Even if you think Michael Hawkins is better as a coach, you have given this job. I mean, he's won the job already. For whatever reason, he won the job. Even if they think he's better at this point, even if they think Hawkins is better at this point, if there's not a reason for you to give it to him, like an injury or because he's not playing well, like instead of 51-3, it was 35-30, a la Spencer Rattler. Unless that was going on and you take that job away from Jackson, now you know you've lost him, just like you lost Spencer Rattler. You've lost him. He's no longer in the mix for you. Now, if you have Hawkins in and he gets hurt, what do you get out of Jackson then? Because you've already shown him that you don't have confidence in him. This is a delicate battle. This is a delicate little balance that you play there. But it's a great problem to have as long as you play it right. You got to play it right. And the truth is, I don't know that there's enough of a difference. And look, I'm not out there at practice to be able to tell you which one I think is better. You're hearing really good things about both of them. I know everybody was freaking out about the fact that he threw a couple of interceptions in a practice in one of the scrimmages or whatever, and that he got baited by probably one of the best linebackers in the country into an interception that got taken back the other way. This defense is going to do that to a lot of people, namely maybe somebody like Tennessee on September 21st, because they will not have seen a single thing that they're going to see that day. Nico Iamaleava, it's going to be a long day for that kid. It's going to be a long day because you don't even have anything on tape. You will not have anything on tape. It's just the way the Venables works. They'll throw things at him that he's never seen before. And, I mean, that's the way it is. It's going to come down to what is their defense going to do. And they got a pretty good defense, but they have they don't have the secondary that Oklahoma has. They don't have the full defensive line that Oklahoma has, and they don't have the linebackers either. Are they good on defense? I think they are. I don't think they're as good as OU. We'll see, though. We'll see. In the end, that's all I'm trying to get at. I'm not saying that Michael Hawkins isn't ready, because he might be. I don't know either way. From everything that I saw from him as a high school player, I'm not concerned. If they were to have to put him in the game for any reason whatsoever, I got confidence in that kid, partly because they do. The other part is I know what my eyes have seen as well. And context matters, guys. Here's a kid we're talking about, didn't throw a lot of interceptions in high school either. I think it was under 5. 55 touchdowns his senior year. He had less than 5 turnovers. That's really good. In Texas football, that's really good. But if you go back and you look at what Jackson did every year that he was at Denton Guyer, I don't think he had a year that he had more than 6 or 7 of them. He's not a turnover machine either. We know what we saw in the Arizona game. We know that we haven't really seen him do that in pressure situations since. It is what it is. The one interception that I've seen him throw, at least on film, since the Arizona game, was probably one of the better catches I've seen in a long time, that Peyton Bowen went up there and one-handed it, snatched it out of the sky. Unbelievable play. What are you going to do about that? You can blame that one on Jackson? Sometimes that other guy's just better. So the point is that I don't think that you can just do that on a knee-jerk reaction in one damn game against Temple, unless you put it all into all the context that the coaching staff has, because they do see every play every day. They watch the film on it every day after practice, over and over. They know what they're seeing out of him. If they really thought that he was the guy, if they really thought that Hawkins needed to be the starter right now because there's some fatal flaw with Jackson, he'd be in there. If there isn't, why would you even try to mess up your good quarterback, your star quarterback that you've been waiting on all up until this point? Why? Because a bunch of knuckleheads that think they know everything from the couch are telling you to? No, that's not how it works. I trust these guys. And I don't know why you wouldn't either. Literally, this team has been put together over basically 2 seasons, and we know what Lincoln did to it on the way out. This is not the same football team that it was back then. And again, as I talked about in that video with Coach Ricks, that programming, the Race to 50 programming, is part to blame for this. We're expecting everybody to be Baker Mayfield year 3 under Lincoln, where he won the Heisman and went number 1, or Kyler Murray, who in his first year as a starter, but he was sitting on the bench with and working with and around the system for a few years, right? That's the deal with it. That was his 3rd year. It was his 3rd year in the system before he got to play. He was a senior. He goes out and wins the Heisman, goes number 1 too. But those guys don't just show up every day. And Baker wasn't that guy when he made his first start for Oklahoma either. There was a lot of people that did not like him at all. Coach Ricks has got us a super chat. What you got? Tennessee needs time to develop their big plays. BV not going to give them time. No. Look, I think Tennessee looked really good. I liked the way that Nico looked the other day, but that way he wasn't going against Oklahoma. That's for sure. All right. Let me go through some of these other comments and we'll get back into it. Now, I'm not listening to this dude. Bevo, go away. Yeah. About Landry Jones, he still owns a ton of the NCAA records for passing too. Yeah. Again, that's the difference in what this team was and what this team is. The current football team that we're talking about, if they're going to do a lot better if they're not led by defense. Because look, you got to think about what Baker was. He had unbelievable. He's my favorite all time. He is. And Kyler was unbelievable too, but they had to be unbelievable week after week after week. They had to be at their best for Oklahoma to win the Race to 50, because that's what it was. That's what it was. If they weren't at their best, they get beat. And sometimes even when they get beat. Think about when they went up against Brent Venables' defense at Clemson. The first time they went to the playoff. They beat the shit out of those guys. It wasn't really pretty. And Baker was good. All year he was good. He was becoming that guy. It did not look good. He was top 5 in the Heisman that year. They went up against that Venables defense. Uh-oh. Not good. Right? The one time that you saw them do really well in the playoff was against, I mean, they should have won the game against Georgia. I'm going to say that forever. They should have won that game. That was not a matter of not being talented enough to do so or even big enough to do so. That was a matter of a coach that lost his nerve there for a little while, and then it turned into a dogfight, and you don't know what's going to happen after that. That's what it was. Squib kick, you can call it that. When they lost the momentum, and when he took his foot off the gas with Baker too, he kind of ran out of gas. He'd been sick as a dog all week. You know, when your adrenaline's going, but as soon as you have a little bit of a letdown, you can see what happened to him. He still played his ass off, but that was the one time that they really had a team that could have won. And it wasn't really because of the defense. We saw that, but they were just too good to really, I think they win the whole thing. If they win the Georgia thing, they probably beat Bama too. There's no guaranteeing it, but I think that was their best chance, right? It was. The rest of the time, as they got smaller, we know some of this other stuff. Look, the only way you were going to do it was winning the race to 50. And when you got a guy like Kyler, that's easier to do. You don't have to do that anymore because now that Clemson defense that beat the crap out of you whenever you were in the playoff with them, it's at Oklahoma. That's who they're recruiting here. We've got 5-star Peyton Bowen back there. Look, I start thinking about Billy Bowman and Peyton, and then you got Spears Jennings, and then you got all these freshmen that are safeties. Unbelievable. All those guys that aren't freshmen, then you got Teddy Lehman saying stuff like Michael Boganowski, best I've ever seen. You realize he played with Roy, right? Best safety I've ever seen in college. What? You don't have to go win the Heisman to win the national championship if you're Jackson. You just have to play not stupid. He's got every tool in the bag to do all that stuff and win the Heisman. You don't have to. You got to make plays when they need you to and not throw games away. That's it. Because this defense is going to be one of those kind of defenses that's going to dominate games. You'll be in every game because of it, at worst. At worst. No, he's not. If he gets injured, he'll go in right away. He might go in right away in that in case of emergency break glass situation, because it's the moment. Well, he's been in these moments before, tight games, things like that. I could see that happening. I don't know for sure that it does. It sounds to me like they're all in on Michael Hawkins, and I think they probably should be. I do too, Aaron. I do too. Thank you. Welcome into the show. I agree. See, this is why I love our audience, though, because the folks that have come in here and talk to us during the live, not many of them have the nerve to say a lot of crazy stuff in here. Not because of me, because the folks in the lives in the comment section will get you. They're the boogeyman, not me. Yes, I think you're right, David. I think you're right. Let me see where we started at. I got way out of comments, so I'm going to get right back here. Kimberly K. Okay. JJ looks very skilled, but he must catch the ball. JJ is big. He's that big body guy. He does have skills. I think he's going to be fine. Look, man, yeah, you can't have drops. I played receiver. I know how that is. I didn't have enough speed to drop footballs. I'll tell you that. If you want to play, don't drop the ball. Quarterback's throwing you the ball, catch it, because how many are going to come at you if you don't? And there's too many guys in this room that are too much talent in that receiver room for you to drop too many of them. But again, Jaden Gibson, he had a little time. There was a question about what do they look like in the receiver room last year. We didn't know for sure, right? That's not a question anymore. There's a bunch of guys that are ready. A bunch. some freshmen that are ready. Zion Kearney again, as we talked about. Ivan Carry on 6'6". He's taller than Jaden Gibson. You know, skill-wise, he's skilled too. Zion Kearney is super skilled. And another big body guy. He's what, 6'3", 6'4" anyway. Another big guy. So, yeah. Let's see. JJ's done. He might be. I think the tight end room is very good. That's another thing that you got to remember. Look, man, you haven't seen everything you're going to get. If Caden Helms just gets into a position where he gets an opportunity to play, which he will, all he needs probably is a little confidence time. You just got to get out there and know that you're not going to, that your leg's going to hold up probably. That'd be the thing that I think. Dude. Yeah, he does. So what do you, yeah, he downshifts, so he's ready to get it. So you probably can't keep them both. But hold on a minute, because that's an assumption. You got to remember that his dad, this is a legacy player, Michael Hawkins is. Now, if you don't end up, I get what you're saying here. And listen, I'm not going to tell you that you're going to keep him forever. If he's not, how do you do that though? How do you keep them both happy? Here's the way I look at it is, if you carve out a role for him, you keep him engaged in this offense. You keep him engaged. You keep him patient as you can possibly get him. They all want to play. Jackson talked about it throughout last year. He said, man, I wanted to play. It sucks being number 2. I get it. You're not going to keep him forever. It's just not going to happen. Right? Now, and the truth is, we don't know what's going to happen once we get into the SEC season. Things happen, man. And the truth is, I forget what the number was, but it's a crazy number of guys that start one place and end up somewhere else to play. It just happens. We just saw it happen with the last 2 quarterbacks that played at Oklahoma. They both started somewhere else. Hell, Dylan Gabriel was at UCF, got to OU, and now he's at Oregon. We were talking last night about DJU. He went from Clemson, Oregon State. The coach leaves, Jonathan Smith. Now he's got to move again. He's at Florida State. Oof, Florida State. In the end, a lot of these guys are moving around because they can. Okay? And when you get it, but this is what you have to do. You have to carve out a role for him. Don't just, and not just, bring him in for a single play, the same kind of gimmick play like the Belldozer or something like that. That's not what you want to do. You want to give him a package. You want to give him an entire series to go do your thing. Make them actually plan for him. That's how you carve out a role. And that's what I think they're probably working at. Not only does that give him an opportunity to kind of get his feet wet a little bit and get that ability to, to have some experience and live experience as a freshman, that's going to be huge for him. Huge. And they did that last year with Jackson. You realize he played in 7 games. 7. The cutoff is 4 in order to get your red shirt, to keep your red shirt. They didn't give a shit about that. And they shouldn't have. They shouldn't have, because it doesn't matter. So you carve that out. But if you take, you're not causing any division like that. If you carve out a role and give him a couple of series a game, and you do some different stuff that you're trying to see what is his best thing that he can do and what might we use him for, what's the best situation for him. You kind of give him a different series here and there, certain situational deals. I mean, there's different things that they're probably doing. I'm not in the planning of this stuff, but I'm just telling you what I think that they probably would do. And it's what it sounds like they're talking about. So to me, you do that, you keep him engaged and you keep him ready to go. And in the case that Jackson was to get hurt, or if Jackson doesn't perform the way that you expect him to perform and you feel like you need to have a change of pace, now you don't have to just go to a guy that's never played. Because if you go back to thinking about what happened Caleb Williams was that dude. That guy doesn't come around all the time either, though. Maybe that's what Michael is. We don't know. But you'd be better to find out early than to just, and we're down 28-7 in the Red River. Let's get him out. Let's try it here. Yeah. Good thing, good thing Caleb Williams is Superman, because otherwise they're screwed. That's just how it is. But I would tell you that if you do that without either an injury or him or Jackson going out there and playing badly to the point that you're down like that, or even down, I don't think these guys would wait till 28-7. But if he's out there, he's had a couple of turnovers and he doesn't look like he's in it, like we saw Spencer 2 years in a row at the freaking Red River, they're going to get him out and give that opportunity. But if you haven't already given a reason for that, or there's an injury or you're playing poorly and they need to get you out, then doing that just over. It even did that, even though, with Spencer Rattler was never, not the greatest teammate after that. But if it's because of an injury, Jackson's not going to be upset. And if he comes back and let's say he doesn't get his job back, because that happens sometimes to an injury, he gets healthy again, but they really like what they're getting out of the other kid. You don't want to mess up a winning streak or anything like that. But then, and he might understand that, right? He might understand that. But in the case of an emergency, he's then ready to go back in. He's not pissed off at you. And you can keep harmony in that room. It's a delicate balance to work it. And the chances are you're probably not going to keep them both forever. Maybe you do lose Hawkins. But here's the thing. Maybe you don't. Because he is a legacy kid. His dad played for Venables. But 2002, I think he was in the same class that Jeff Lebby was in. This is a guy that loves Oklahoma. They wanted this play. They wanted this scholarship offer. They hadn't got it. They wanted it. There's more context. It's easy to say you're not going to keep them both. But if you keep him engaged, do you think he would rather start at Oklahoma or just go anywhere else? I think he wants to play at Oklahoma. And if you're playing behind a guy that has a really good year, go out there and you get into the playoff or, maybe have a chance to win the SEC. You got to kind of expect that, hey, man, okay, yeah, he earned this job. And I can sit another year. I can take the red shirt or whatever if I need to at some point, but I'm still going to get my time. There's no guarantee that he stays. There's no guarantee he leaves either. Again, there's a lot of context to it. It all depends on how it goes. If you just play it the way that Lincoln did and never put Caleb Williams in whenever he could have, wasn't giving him looks, really. Wasn't giving him a lot of looks. Wasn't even giving him a lot of reps, according to what he was saying in practice. That doesn't sound like that's what they're doing either. They're trying to keep him engaged. If you're not getting reps at all and stuff like that, I can see that they're not making you feel like you matter. Everything we hear from Brent Venables is we want to use them both. Yeah, that's true. For sure. I've gone so far back. You guys are going to have to re-talk about it. I'll go into some of this other stuff, though. Let's see. Okay, Hawkins is young, and players seem to have 100% bought into BB's system. Get him in the games here and there. He won't leave. Agreed. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm trying to say. Nope, that's not true, though. He could go to A&M they could go to A&M if they wanted to. That's just for the spring portal, and the spring portal may be over with. That was only for the spring portal, though. Oh, Bevo's bodyguard in there trashing. Cowboy Cool. What's up, man? Stop feeding the wild trolls. Yep. Ryman's lying. I tend to think he could be, man. Benji, great for the moment. Situations aren't going to miss a stretch. I think Hawkins is a better option. You're not wrong. See, this is a Texas fan that actually gets it sometimes, unlike the other guy that's in there. Why are we talking about this? I just told you why we were talking about this, Rob. Does it bother you? Yep, that's true. Mm-hmm. Play your QB1 the most. Build your QB2 and make sure he knows he's loved. You got to have the backup, but you don't want to waste him if you don't have to. Yeah, I don't know that there's a waste anymore. I just don't. Because the truth is that how many guys are staying 4 years anymore? I mean, even going all the way back to Baker, he didn't even do it. Transfers happen. They just happen now. It's too easy to do it, and they have zero way of keeping them. So yeah, you've got to work. It's a delicate balance. That's part of your job as a coach, though. You know what the substitute for experience is there sooner in Texas? Talent. I like Casey as much as the next guy. I don't like him as much as I like Michael Hawkins. He's not that guy. Mm-hmm. This is good. Hey, this is a great question. This is a great comment. I mean, note, Arnold, highest rated quarterback prospect to ever sign with Oklahoma, even higher than Rhett Bomar. He will not be benched for Hawkins. That's not necessarily true all the way, but chances are he's not going to get benched for him unless there's a reason to bench him. Listen, it happens, though. It happens. People lose their jobs. But the point I'm making, we haven't seen a reason to do that. Is there a chance that Hawkins is better? Yeah, maybe. Is there a chance that Hawkins was completely underrated? Oh yeah, not a chance. He was. He wasn't a huge camp kid. He just worked with Kyler Murray's dad. Still does. Makes great throws. You see it. If you're watching on Twitter, it gets posted quite a bit. His dad posts stuff all the time. Kevin Murray posts stuff all the time with Kyler. Kyler's talked about it. Again, you hear a lot of really good things about Michael Hawkins. That's why to me, it's a great situation to be in. The point is that I want everybody to realize that I can say and mean two things at the same time. One thing doesn't mean that the other thing is necessarily false. I think that Michael Hawkins is definitely the player of the future here when it's his turn. Can you keep hold of both of them? I don't know. I think you have an opportunity to if you do the right thing. And that's what this whole conversation is supposed to be about. Even if you think that Hawkins is the better player today, right now, he better be so much better that you're willing to risk losing Jackson Arnold now. Like, because you lose him for not having done anything to lose the job and you take it away from him, you've lost him for good. If you ever need him in an emergency, you're probably not going to do that. And I just don't see this coaching staff doing that either. Now, I would tell you this is a coaching staff that wants to play the guy that they think is the best player. We see that all over the defense. Jaden Jackson wouldn't be starting if they cared about what year of college you're in, how much experience you had. He won that job from DJ Terry. And DJ Terry's a good player. He's going to play a lot. They're going to get the guy in that they think is the best. You're seeing it in different places. You're seeing all those safeties that we were talking about. Boganowski, Powers, Jaden, or what's the other kid's name? Oh man, I need to get that. I need to pull up that thing. Talking about too many guys at once. we go. Oh yeah, Jaden Hardy. Another freshman. You know, you got Boganowski's Powers, Jaden Hardy, Eli Bowen. They're from everything we keep hearing, he's probably going to get some run. He may not be a starter. They're going to play him. You know, these young guys are they're going to get their shot. They're going to get their shot. And he's not, I mean, you start talking about cornerback, he's not even the only one. You know, we've been hearing a ton of good stuff about Jeremiah Newcomb as well. And then you've got oh yeah, man. And I love Jacoby Johnson. He's a true sophomore. He got some run last year, but everything we're hearing is that he's killing it. Talking about a lot of young guys, there's guys in front of them that have a lot more experience. The substitution for experience is just being better. And the truth is, the floor has raised around this program. The floor has raised. They're coming in a lot better in certain positions than guys were after 2 or 3 years. I mean, we're talking about a guy when you start talking about Billy Bowman is in the running to be a first-team All-American, right? He should have probably won the Thorpe Award last year. He's definitely going to be in the running for it this year. He's always around the football. And he's sharing a lot of time with a bunch of freshmen. A senior that's as good as he is. You heard him talking at SEC Media Days about how really good he thought Peyton Bowen is. And I can't even, I mean, to me, it blows me away to hear a guy that played with Roy Williams, College Football Hall of Famer, safety, that dude. He played on the defense with him, and he's saying that he thinks Michael Boganowski is better. And they've played one football game. That tells you something, because Teddy doesn't say stuff like that. He just doesn't say stuff like that. Yeah. Yeah, listen, I think that Aaron, I like this comment. In real life, the difference from JA this year to next this time will be huge. And I'm assuming a huge year this year, one way or the other. Okay. What? So you're saying Jackson's going to have a big year this year, and he'll have a big jump next year. I think we've all been assuming that, right? But if they have a big win, if they have a big year this year, and say they get into the playoff and they get deep in the playoff, you know, I'm not going to make any predictions, but let's say they have a really good season, and he's a big part of that. You're not going to necessarily take the job away from him then either. You're just not going to do it. But if they're in position to win a national championship, you think that Michael Hawkins is just going to leave? No, I don't. Not if they keep him engaged. Not if they keep him engaged. Malik Hawkins, what about him? What were we talking about there? What Malik is going to be that guy when he gets here. Oof. Stud. Michael Hawkins is who you're talking about. Malik is the younger brother. He's still a senior at Frisco Emerson. That's true. I like this comment. That's funny, man. What? Which one are we talking about? You talking about? I don't even care what you're talking about, dude. Again, this is the point I wanted to make to everybody. Thank you, Urban Engine. This is the biggest point. And I'll tell you that Michael Hawkins' dad understands this as well as anybody. They don't have to win with offense. They go back to their championship, the last one that they won. Think about that. Early in the year, the offense did its thing and kind of carried them a little bit, but it wasn't for long. By the end of the year, they were the best defense in the country, without a doubt. They won over one of the best offenses, the Heisman Trophy winner, and one of the best offenses in the country, and they held them scoreless. They got 2 points because, I mean, they took the safety on purpose so that they didn't have to give them good field position by punting it or anything like that. It was smart. It was the right thing to do. All 15 of those points were scored by Oklahoma, essentially. The Bear front is going to eat against the Tennessee O-line. I like it. Ooh, Randy, don't say that. I don't think so. Why do you think that? I like that kid, though. I do like that kid. Has a little Brooks in. Ooh, I like Kennedy, man. I hope that's the man. He's a good player. He's a good player. Why didn't you like Landry sooner in Texas? That's man. That's not cool. Yep, they had no defense. Okay, so see, this is the beauty of it, though, is that you've got so many guys that, hey, if you remember it, go back and watch some of that IMG film last year from Stone and JJ. They were screwed no matter what. Screwed. Whoever they played in the country, they were screwed. Because if you double team one, the other eats. You're gonna have to choose. You can scheme one really good player out. They've got a rotation of freaking 6 at least. And we saw Ashton Sanders look really good last week too. True sophomore. Or maybe he's a redshirt freshman. Look there. I like Ashton. He, you know. Yeah, he's a redshirt freshman. And he got in. Now he's running behind DeJoun Terry and then Dominic Williams. But I mean, we really are. We're talking about they've got a rotation for those two positions of 7 guys at minimum, with Devon Sears being part of that. And Devon Sears, from what our lads is saying, he's further down the depth chart than both freshmen that are in the mix there. We're not even talking about guys like Nigel Smith yet. We're not even, I mean, you know, he could get his opportunities at any point. You've heard a lot of good stuff about him during the fall, during the spring. Stephen G. Yeah, man. Thank you. That was 30 minutes ago. Shit, I've been going for a long time. All right. Taylor is special. I think so too. Thought Barnes looked his best ever. That one player to that. Yes, man. Dude, he's definitely running better than he did as a freshman. And I give him a lot of credit, Javonte, because what we saw out of him at the end of the year last year, it almost looked like he was having real doubt problems. And that happens sometimes with injuries like that. And when you come in and you think you're ready, but you're not ready, and it just doesn't work well, it can mess with your head. Good for him. Good job on DeMarco to make him believe and to keep him around. I'm excited about that. It tells you how really tight him and DeMarco were. Being from the same town, I can see that. I can see that. And so it's good. It's good, man. But in the end, I don't know that you're going to be able to keep Taylor Tatum off the field, man. You got to find places for him. Here's another situation where he's talked about playing some out of the slot. I think he can do a lot of different things. So it's not that you don't play all of them, because I think you can. But I mean, look, if we being honest about it, they had a really good look from Sam Franklin too. He had some big runs. He was able to break off a few too. He's explosive. they've got a lot of talent, man, in a lot of places. But I think that, when you start talking about Taylor Tatum, he's one of those guys that if he gets on the field full time, or if he gets a start somewhere, you probably never get him back off the field. By middle of the year, you're probably going to have some injuries somewhere. We're going to see where they are, but you hope that you hold up. But I mean, it's good to have that depth, man, that competitive depth. Everybody take a drink. Oh, the boogeyman cometh. Yeah, no doubt. Well, Coach, where's Coach Ricks? There you go, T-Boomer. That's right. Yep, Hank Casey's break glass in case there's an emergency. I agree. You know what? This is pretty good right here. I think we're seeing a little. They all love each other, man. They all seem to like playing for each other. They all seem to love and want to win for this coaching staff too, not just Venables, all of them. We were talking a lot. Something that came up the last few weeks, and we were talking about. Remember whenever Cody Light was in here and he was talking shit, and me and Bishop Frank were like, "What are you talking about? Name me one player that he used to have that played for him any amount of time that doesn't love Brent Venables. Good luck with that. Good luck with that. They don't exist. And he is the epitome of coaching people hard. Intensity all day long. They all want to run through a wall for him. Hell of a lot of fans do. This is what it is, man. You need JJ to step up. You need somebody to step up. You got to have somebody to step up. Bye. Bro, Sperry has a lot. It ain't happening, man. I love the way that Sperry throws the football. He can spin it. I don't know that it's better than either one of these two guys. And there's no way that he's as mobile as either one of them either. There ain't no way he takes the job from Hawkins unless he gets hurt. No way. What's up there, Chicken? Yep. I agree right here. He loves OU. He wants to be here. They were making a big it was important to Hawkins himself. I don't think that it was as important to his dad. His dad was a little pissed off, I think, that they hadn't already given him the scholarship offer before he went down and threw for Levy. He felt like he should have already had it. And there was pressure there, I guess, or whatever. This is off. I read that story about it, but they were talking about that he was a little concerned about why hasn't he already gotten it. And he told his son before they left to go to Norman that day to throw, we don't have to do this. We can go. You've got plenty of offers. You don't have. And he goes, no, I want this offer. It was important to him to go to Oklahoma. Malik's coming to Oklahoma too. This is important. This is a family thing. Sometimes that means more. And look, he's been in the NFL also. He knows that the most important thing is to play in the best place. He's talked about all these. He's another one of those guys that loves Coach Venables. He played for him. It means a lot more than just that. Billy. Hey, man, thanks. Coach too, because he does.
You know what, guys? In a nice way, fuck y'all. We don't give a shit.
The brand has finally returned. Fuck your brand.
Texas. So, I had to go there. That was awesome. Best thing for Hawkins is play action plays. They don't have a ton of play action out of the RPO though. That's the hard part. It's all kind of play action, I guess. It's just the new kind. Likes to live viewers is very good right now, but it could be better. If you like it, let's see what they are. I hadn't even looked. Been talking this whole time. Woo! We've had 450, almost 500 views between the two channels. And we have 53 likes. Yeah, 10%. I'd love it if it was like 20 or 30%. That'd be cool sometimes. I know not everybody's going to agree and stuff, but it just helps. It just helps. If JFA is as good as we think, he is gone in 2 years. That leaves Hawkins 2 to 3 years to shine. No, I agree. And you don't have to get, I mean, not everybody. I think it's situational, you know? I think it's situational. If you stick them on the bench and they're not getting reps, they're not, you're not finding any kind of role for them to play with, especially when they have special talent. We're talking, again, sub 4.4 quarterbacks don't come around a lot. They just don't. That's fast. And so you kind of need to, if you can find a reason to put him in certain situations, you should probably do that. And it's not that I think that Jackson can't run a little bit, but he's not that fast. He's not. He could pull a Kyler. Kyler was, and that's the other thing, that Kyler was just a different dude, man. Golly. The one guy in history, in Texas history or high school history, I think, that won every game from his 8th grade year on. 50-something and 0 in high school. Whew. Hey, man, thank you. Thank you, guys. I appreciate that, man. Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. And hey, listen, I'm not saying anything bad about Sperry. I'm just telling you, he's going to wait his turn. And let's not get it twisted. They got another one coming that looks really damn good, too, from California next year. They're both probably going to have been here waiting on Hawkins to get done. You end up with a logjam. You're not going to keep them all. You're not going to keep them all. But I would tell you, if Hawkins stays, it's because he wants to be there. He's a legacy guy. They love Oklahoma. Both kids be playing together. I don't see him just upping and leaving unless he felt like he wasn't being loved enough. And I don't see that. That's not what I'm seeing. That's not what we're hearing. Yeah. There you go. Good call. What's going on with the commercials? You're going to start up with that again, Boomer129? If you don't like getting commercials, and I even have it on like where it doesn't go on very many of them. I mean, there's 3 settings. I've got it on like the lowest setting for commercials. If you don't like it, you got to buy the premium package, dude. Don't be cheap. Sperry needs to improve a lot with Jaden O'Neal coming here. Man, Jaden O'Neal is that dude too, man. Have you watched him? He's real good. I like Kevin Sperry a lot as well. I'm just saying I don't see that he's going to squeeze out Jackson, or he's not going to squeeze out Hawkins either. The only way, I think there's a situation where you probably don't take a spot from the guy above you unless there's an injury. That's probably going to be how it goes and you never know. We don't know what's going to happen with O'Neal. We don't know what's going to happen with Sperry. It's a different game that they play. Now, Sperry looked really good there, winning the state championship last year. Looked really good. I like him too. I just don't know. I mean, I think out of these, we're talking about 4 to 5, 6 years from now before they can all get their opportunity to play. Chances are you lose 1 or 2 of them. It happens. It happens, but chances are they recruit somebody else too. This is the way it is. Yeah. Yeah. It's just love for those guys, you know? Coop! Oh, man, you could have been here already. Come on. Was that you texting me? Damn it. Should have brought you in earlier. You're paying me? Hell yeah, you can come in for that. It's in there. Come on. Coopster. Love it. Keep him out of here. Keep him out of here. BV with trust. There you go. That's what it is. Again, and it's about context, guys. It's got to be about context. You got to think about more than one thing. Don't be one of those fans that doom and glooms the shit out of everything. That's my thing. Is I get sick of that part. I get sick of that part. Coop on the way. What's up, bro? Welcome into the show.
What is going on?
Unfair Sports. Eric Cooper. What's up, my guy?
Man, I just realized I've been on audio calls all morning, and so I just realized I look a little disheveled. But you know what?
A little disheveled, he says. Now you look fine. Look good, man. I backed it off of both of us because it's a little close for two of us. This ugliness going on up in here. We've got quite a few folks in here watching, man. We have been talking about context in terms of what we saw in the game last week. Been getting a lot of talk about that and comments like crazy on the videos. I know you guys have too. I talked to Jay the other day. But the conversation, I think somebody saw part of the video, but they caught it at a time that it might have sounded like I was talking shit about Michael Hawkins, and I was not. I was just saying that to say right now that you have to take the job away from Jackson Arnold, which is what we're hearing from certain people, knuckleheads of the fan base, is insanity. It doesn't mean that Michael won't be great if he gets in, but you can't just take the job away from him based upon what we saw in a 51-3 4-touchdown game. What say you, Coop?
I mean, Jackson went 17 of 25, 4 drops. So that made him 21 of 25 with 4 touchdowns, probably 5 touchdowns because, and again, you can't play the if, but sure. If you just leave the touchdowns right where it is, I mean, that's all in a day's work. Jay and I were at the game, and we're very, very emphatic that that game was played in a the offensive, game plan was a situational offensive game plan. It was playing, it was almost like doing the red zone offense, but wherever they were on the field. It was just keep it right there, keep it right in the middle. Because the stuff that you heard about Jackson Arnold during training camp was that, he often was putting the ball in harm's way. Well, there's a couple things that go to that. A, the defense knows the offense just as well as he does. So those, and we saw the defense. Does anybody want to have any conversation about whether or not that defense looks scary? You hold them under 200 yards, altogether. And
simple.
Yeah, but you know what? Yeah, it was Temple.
I know.
But Kirby Smart said it in the Georgia game. I think it was the halftime. Was and bless his heart, because I think that he was just playing with his food. But he said that we're starting to give up some chunks. We're starting to give up some chunks, and I like how our teams responded because most teams fold up right after they give away big plays, and we saw that from Oklahoma. Leading up into last year, is you give away this big play, and then you're like, well, they had explosive 55-yard play. Temple grinded out, got a touchdown. Well, every single time that Temple did anything this past week was almost immediately resulted in a turnover. OU leads the nation in turnover margin, number 1. So a lot of other teams also played nobodies. And Jackson Arnold didn't give the ball up at all. So you have a guy who essentially 21 for 25, he put the ball there. A couple of the plays, Yeah, a couple of the plays he and yeah, Benji, you're right. I mean, you guys held Colorado State, and I mean, I don't hear anybody else going, well, listen, it was Colorado State. But there, a lot of these teams, I think that was in the 11 of the SEC teams held their opponent 9 points or fewer, and 10 of them was 3 points or fewer. Texas was a handful of people, who did a handful of teams that did 0. There were 4 teams who did 3. So, and then you have the guys at the bottom. And if you've seen the SEC shorts, they're in the teaching room talking about that stuff. So it's going to be a long season. But guys, everybody, I don't care who your fan base is. We're week 1. Week 1 is done. Outside of Florida State fans, nobody should be overreacting. Nobody should.
Well, it's not overreacting for Florida State fans right now because they've had a problem. They've got a culture problem in Tallahassee.
Very much. Very much. And I think
I think there's a lot of DJU. You can do that if you want to. There's other issues.
There's a lot of issues because they also ran for like 20 yards. And
That's
DJU
right.
doesn't.
Correct.
And listen, DJU doesn't have too much to do. I mean, yes, he has to be able to throw the ball down, but it is absolutely, it's week 1. So let's calm down. There was I've been on multiple different places. I've watched the game in live once and 4 times in doing studies. Wanted to see what really happened on the defensive line, from the defensive tackle spot. What happened with the edges, what happened with the linebackers. And then I watched the offensive line and kind of comboed up with the third down conversion pieces. So, I mean, Michael Hawkins looked great. That second team, that second line looked great. But it was also at the end of the game. And those guys were backups at Temple, or anybody who was still in there had been there, been playing all night long.
Yeah. Well, I would also say this, though. I don't want to necessarily put it about that either. Here's what the point that I was trying to make, and there's a bunch of ways that you have to look at this. I've had, Billy was in here talking about it a few minutes ago. You got to make sure one of these guys could leave. Yeah, I get that. The one that I think the one that's more likely to leave would be Jackson if something were to happen, right? Because of the fact of Malik's coming. His dad played here for BV. They love Oklahoma. They really want. Remember when the whole story? I don't remember who wrote it. It may have been Parker, right? About how kind of pissed off Big Mike was with Lebby for not already having given him the offer yet, and they're going down there to throw to see if they get the offer. And it was so important to Mike Jr. That's a big deal. That's a big deal to these guys. They've already got Malik coming. Now, here's what I would say. The bottom line is I think that if they're doing I should have kept that up here. Where the hell is it? Oh, yeah. Verb Hal. He said he talked to Mike 2 Saturdays ago, and I don't know if you're talking about junior or senior. He did say he has some packages, and he goes against the ones a lot in practice. Yeah, we hear that a lot. And it's exactly what BV was telling you in the press conference after the game. First off, anything you want to say about what they did or didn't do, and you didn't have yardage, short field because you forced a shit ton of turnovers. 6 of them, by the way. Did anybody else in the country do that? I don't think so. Right? 6 of them. They're going to keep doing that. Now, are they going to get 6 against everybody? No. But that tells you that, look at what they did last year. They were one of the leaders in the country last year, too, doing it. This is a better defense than it was even a year ago. The point is, they went from an already vanilla game plan to when Farouk was hurt, we're not throwing the ball downfield anymore today. Why? Well, we don't need to. We don't need to. The one other time they did, it bounced off his hands. JJ dropped it. But the point is that they're putting him in situations. He's got certain packages that he can run. I think that they believe in him, and you heard it from Venables that he says, look, we feel like we're going to need them both to win. We feel like we're going to need them both. So that means to me, you're trying to carve out a role for this kid as a true freshman. It's important to Venables. That tells you that they are kind of thinking the same thing that we've heard guys like Gabe say? You know, Gabe Eichert said, better than Caleb Williams. Big praise, right? But unless Jackson does something to lose the job, you cannot make him the starter or you lose Jackson. And if he gets hurt, you still lost Jackson. You can't, there's a balance to it. You know what I mean? He has to do something to lose the job. You can't be because you didn't like every ball he threw in 51-3. You know what I mean? Or because he threw an interception in practice against the best linebacker in the country that baited him into it, and we've seen it happen before. You know, he's new to it.
I think I saw a stat the other day, and it was, I think it's like 68% of quarterbacks have transferred away from the university that they committed to. I mean, that's a crazy stat. And everybody wants to go play. I mean, all these kids want to go play. Why? Because most of these kids have been told that, I mean, they've been the best in Pee Wee. They've been the best in JV. They've been the best in high school. And a quarterback is, I mean, again, if you don't have a quarterback, you don't have a team. You can't, I mean, you see that in a lot of different areas. And so, you know, there's a lot of, there's a lot of, gentle handling that you have to do. And, you know, when you deal with the quarterbacks, and again, I mean, I don't think we've now played one game. The guy threw 4 touchdowns. You know, essentially he had 4 passes, which were, you know, didn't end up in a receiver's hand. One of the times I was, you know, watching one of the third down conversions after Jackson got, and that's another point I'll touch on in a second. Jackson did all that with the probably a little bit of a ridiculous situation happening in front of him. I mean, you first series of the game, you come down, you score a touchdown. It looks like the first series, Florida State, you know, in Ireland. Everybody was like, oh my God, they're pissed off. They have bad intentions. Second series, Hickman gets hurt. You know, now all of a sudden a complete shuffling has to happen in front of him. You don't know what you're getting, you know, with that mixed up offensive line. That's a lot of chaos in front of him. And we've seen great quarterbacks turn completely pedestrian because the chaos in front of them. Jackson never did that this past week. I mean, he still had his head about him. He was still working and having conversations with the offensive linemen, having conversations with the receivers. And Jason, I can say this. To know that it was scripted is, all we've heard is how fast Brendan Thompson is, how fast Zion Ragens is. There were multiple times during the game that, I mean, we were pointing it out. And of course, if Jay and I didn't see it, we had other people like talking to us because now people knew who we were and they were trying to point out to us. There was one-on-one coverage for Ragens and Brendan Thompson multiple times with no safety help at all. Like safety is literally 6 yards behind the line of scrimmage, playing up on the line. So I just think it's hilarious because, I mean, we played a very, very, very game plan of keeping the ball within the line of scrimmage and doing all that stuff. And Jackson still looked great. Hawkins doesn't go anywhere. Jackson's not going anywhere. I don't think Sperry can go anywhere at this point. Because you are way too.
He's been locked in for too long, right? He's been.
You're way too invested, and anybody who's trying to bounce out. I mean, think of what that gives, what that looks like to a new coaching staff is. Oh, hold on a second. You've been committed to how long, and now you're trying to bail out. Like, please tell me what you're doing here. And again, Sperry moving back and forth, you know, there's a lot to do with that. He came to Oklahoma to be closer to the campus, to be with this team. And then the family situation, his mom was still back in Texas. And so, I mean, he moved back there. But right now,
he's going to be at Geyer this year. He's at Geyer.
Yeah. So, and I believe 11/11, November 11th, let's see here. What was it? So on November 11th, Denton Geyer plays Louisville. So you're going to have Fasusi and Sean Hutton going up against Zane Rowe, the 2027 defensive end. And I mean, that's going to be a great game. Like that's going to have a lot of Sooners on it. But again, I don't think Sperry is heading anywhere. And then also you've got Jaden O'Neal, who is already starting to do some damage on the recruiting front, and 2026 is where this coaching staff's really focused on right now. So the quarterback situation is going to be set up. I mean, like I said, if anybody was at a risk of not being here, I think it would be a Kevin Sperry. You know, he does have a great relationship with Jeff Lebby, but they kind of have to pump the brakes on that, because what is that going to look like?
Mm-hmm. True. I think so too. Because didn't they get that kid from Mississippi down there at like their number one quarterback in Mississippi is going to Jeff?
They've got Blake Shapen right now, which was at Baylor, and he looked really good. I don't know about that. But I mean, at the same time, like I said,
Sperry shit.
No, but I also think that he's, with those Baylor injured quarterbacks, I think they stay in college football for 7 to 12 years anyway. So you go play at Baylor, you get hurt. Texas Tech, same situation. You just bounce around. But I mean, it's the quarterback position is something that a lot of talking heads who do this for entertainment, not because they want to break down football. They do it for entertainment. Cable TV, broadcast TV, these things are all dying.
Sure.
And so the only way that you can keep your worth is for high engagement numbers. That's how you get sponsors. And so, but they were saying that, listen, Oklahoma's going to have trouble, recruiting quarterbacks. Well, you go 5-star, you go generational talent with Michael Hawkins. Then, Kevin Sperry, who has done really, really well in the circuits. Now Jaden O'Neal, who's probably going to be a 5-star quarterback also. And everybody, we know what's going on. We know the life that you live. But I think at the same time, what we're talking with Florida State, you recruit a certain type of kid to Oklahoma right now. It is people who are captains of their football team, people who have high, quality character. And I think that those guys are a little bit easier to stick around. That's why when you see guys hop in the transfer portal or some of these bigger, 5-star guys, those conversations about NIL being the leading factor for what they're going to do. I mean, that's somebody who Oklahoma is going to go, hey man, we'll keep contact with you, and this is what we want. So right. I'm not worried about any quarterbacks leaving.
I'm not either. I mean, look, you have to know that. Look, the numbers say you're not going to keep them all anyway. It's just kind of be how it is. And if you're recruiting this high talent, this much talent at the quarterback position, some of them are going to go. It's just how it goes, and that's okay. That's okay, because that means that you're still getting those guys to come in. Who cares? And the more you have these guys succeed, which I think you're going to see more and more of that. Look, I don't think the point I was making is somebody got into my DMs, and I'll tell you who it was here in a little while. And it felt like they saw part of the video, but didn't see enough of the video and thought I might have been talking shit about Michael Hawkins. I was not talking. You know me. I've been one of those guys that said, I think Michael Hawkins is the guy. Whenever he gets his chance, you probably don't get him off the field. Period. You don't. As far as being a starter. That's the way I see somebody. That's the way I would see Jackson leaving, is he gets hurt. Because, man, I saw throws that he made this past weekend. The 47-yard completion was to Farouk. That ball was in the air for 57 yards, and he was off platform falling down. And it was money. It was money. You don't make throws. Not everybody makes throws at him. Dylan Gabriel didn't make throws like that. I love Dylan Gabriel. He didn't make throws like that. Incapable. Yeah, Stephen G. That is in the Discord link is in the description. It's the free. You can now get into our Discord for free. You do not have to be a member. I could change that back because of whatever, but I'm not. I want you guys to be a part of it. It's big for us. We're trying to build it up, and these guys have worked super hard on it. Stephen G and these guys, even you Texas guys, have your own little corner in our Discord to go hang out in. We have there's common areas, stuff like that. But one of the things I'm going to start new today, we're going to have our meme of the day for all these morning shows, and then we'll have a meme of the week and a meme of the month kind of deal. The first one that I picked, because it's from the Discord, you're going to get in there and want to check those out. I'll pop it up here towards the end of the show. Now, in the end, what I was saying is that I feel like you get a lot of knee-jerk reactions. We know that, right? But I hated it that it felt like anybody might think that I am saying that I don't like Michael Hawkins as a starter. That's not the case. I just don't. The point is, what I was saying, you caught it. They may have caught it at the wrong time, but what I was saying was, if you're trying to get rid of this guy off of that performance, what the fuck is wrong with you? You know what I mean? It's not that Hawkins may be better. I don't know. He might be. We'll find out when it's his time. And I don't think it's yet. I think if it was, he'd already be in there. But I don't think that you want to risk having the shit show that Lincoln had with Spencer and Caleb the last year. That's not what they want. Right? That's just it. That's how I feel. And context matters, folks. Context matters. Go ahead. Sorry.
I would just say, I mean, you don't want that situation anywhere, because the adage is if you have two quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks. And so, I mean, it's
not a starter like they were at Oklahoma State last year.
Yeah. So, I mean, I would just, I mean, you don't want your starting quarterback to struggle at any point regarding, just staying competitive. And that gets really, it just puts your team in a really, really bad spot. And when you have two guys, I mean, Texas has the same situation going down there in Austin, is you have two guys that have impressed the players. That's, you kind of have to just be careful with that kind of stuff, because, if you do have packages for, Arch Manning to come in the middle of the game, you can't tell me that any quarterback, and I'm not talking about like a wildcat scenario or a bulldozer scenario, but I mean, like if you put in, Arch Manning, in a 7-7 game everybody's going to start going, oh, here it is. And then all of a sudden the fence riders are going to go, well, I kind of want Arch Manning. I mean, like, I want to see him now. And so I think the coaching staff watches that, and and again, with the coaching staff, you have to have a good pulse on, the mentality of your starter. And all these guys believe that they're the best player on the team.
Sure.
I mean, and if you don't,
you want them to believe that shit too, right?
Yeah, you do. And so it's hard because, Baker came in, and he could, Baker could, come in, and you got to realize this, like Oklahoma football, the SEC, the NCAA really kind of altered the history of Oklahoma football by not letting Baker play that first year. And that year we had, just loads and loads of issues on a quarterback that year. That was the year where you had Cody Thomas and Blake Bell. You had Trevor Knight. I mean, you just had all these different dudes playing quarterback. And I mean, if Baker would have started that year, how has that changed? Does Kyler ever come here? Does Jalen Hurts ever come here? And so, there's a lot of ifs, ands, and buts about that. But I mean, Baker knew that he was walking in after Trevor Knight's out of body experience, where he was, I don't know if Johnny Unitas came into his spirit that night against Alabama, but we never saw good quarterback play or comparable quarterback play from Trevor Knight after that point. So you got to have guys who are going to come in and want to take it, but then also the grass is not always greener on the other side. Because if you go somewhere else, you don't have a coaching staff that's invested in you. You're a mercenary at that point, and it's just a tough scenario. And so you want to be careful, even with like the packages. on who you bring in the middle of the game, because I mean, it even if it is just something small. I mean, you saw Lincoln, and I won't get into that, but Lincoln brought Caleb Williams in during OU Texas. Caleb breaks off that big run. He put Spencer back out there. Now we have our theories about why that was, but right there, you now have a situation in your locker room, and if you don't have great kids, that's a slippery slope right away. And I think that's why you also don't see different places like Florida State is not going to try to throw somebody else out there. I don't think A&M is going to probably try to throw someone else out there, over Wegman, because it's too early in the season to be jacking around with that type of stuff.
Oh, I agree. Boomer 129, what's your deal, man? Why are you always busting chops? I haven't said anything bad about Casey. I said I didn't want him to start over.
Recently.
I didn't say bad stuff about him. I just said that I didn't want him to go in front of Hawkins. I said that.
Listen, Casey Thompson is the smartest quarterback that we have on our roster.
Look, man, I could see the in case of emergency break glass. I've said that a lot too. So I've said that a lot more than I ever said that I didn't want him in.
He's here for a reason, and it is to add some experience and to add some game experience. Plus, the guy, I mean, his family's invested in this university, and I kind of attribute this to where when you saw, Jim Edmonds for the St. Louis Cardinals, who I'm doing this for right now, but you saw Jim Edmonds come back to the Cardinals, or you see, somebody come back, Emmitt Smith get signed, on a 2-day contract for the Cowboys so he can retire a Cowboy. I mean, that's kind of what I see with Casey Thompson. He wanted to end it here, and guess what? He can also probably transition into a coach next year.
I think that's what that's the whole reasoning behind it, right? That's what we've kind of found out more than anything. I think, again, he's that guy that, look, if you're ahead in a game and Jackson was to go down, probably a good situation because he's played a lot of football, right? Good situation for him to go in, calmly go about his business. He knows the offense. Yeah.
And, not to talk trash on Brandon Zerbrug, but, that's another situation we saw 2 years ago after Dylan went down, is you don't want an injury, a short-term injury to two different guys really get, put you in a spot to where you're starting a Brandon Zerbrug.
Nope. He's not ready yet. But I think Zerbrug looks like he's probably going to be okay too. He's not on the level right now to where, you don't want to play him as a freshman. It's kind of, look, I've always thought that Nick Evers was going to be really good. The ball came off of his hand different. Apparently he was not ready as a freshman. Although I really would have liked to have found out instead of watching that shit show.
Well, I mean, I think he did kill a groundhog at one point during that game. So, but
I mean, when it was out of freaking community, everyone, whatever. Anyway,
but regardless, the quarterback room's in a good spot at this place, and I don't think anybody needs to be worrying about anything crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think so either. I think that the quarterback situation is really good right now. If Sperry, I was saying that to that person that was in my DMs on Twitter, and apparently it was, Neilio. Knew it, son of a bitch. I knew it. Yeah, and this is right. Being an Elite 11 MVP doesn't just fall out of the sky. Neither does being the high school player of the year in the country. As far as Gatorade is concerned, neither does playing in multiple state championship games. If you're Jackson Arnold in Texas 6A, the guy's, his resume says he's ready. The game that he had the other day says he's ready, and they were shuffling that line around because they could. They wanted to see what they were going to get in certain places. I think we found out some things about Spencer Brown. He doesn't belong on the tackle position over there, I don't think. But he's the third string guy out there. I mean, he wouldn't have normally been there. If they're playing a game against somebody that they're worried about, he wouldn't have been out there the other day either. but for him to, yes, but the other part of it, and Coach Ricks had said this on our show we did the other day, which was, I really like this, and I didn't really catch it at the time, but and I brought this up a little while ago, but said, yeah, but not only that, but they didn't have a secondary that could go with even the second and third string guys that were going in at receiver. So all they could do was pin their ears back and come on. They had to be willing to just try to go get him. So yeah, they rushed him around a lot and did some things that you probably would rather not see. But how many teams are going to do that and get burned all year? Because look what it turned into. It could have been 100-3. It really could have, if they really wanted it to do that. Anyway.
And I will say this about Brown. I mean, it was bad. The spring was bad. There were some times that he looked bad that it really wasn't necessarily all his fault, but you're going to need him at some point in the season. And so you gotta, I mean, it is what it is. Like, you're going to need to do that. The offensive line recruiting, 3 and 4 years ago was not terrific. And, you had a couple guys who didn't work out, like a Savion Byrd, who probably should be playing this year. You had this situation with Caden Green, which that's its own, episode of itself. So you need to make sure that you don't lose that player by, the coaching staff can't react like the fans do. Listen, I saw it. I saw it. I saw the performance. I've looked at, the film, and he's going to have to be on the field at some point. And so you've got to be able to foster that mentality, continue to coach him up if you're Bill Bedenbaugh, because
you're talking about Brown. Yeah. But I was thinking, I feel like he looks like a guard. I mean, it's just what you kind of see. If you got to put him in, I guess, in the situation, I mean, there's also other things that they can scheme and do some things to kind of help him out a little bit too. Do a little 12 personnel, a little chip here and there. I mean, these guys know what they're doing with that kind of stuff. Again, this was a don't show anybody shit game.
Yeah.
Nothing.
And
that's
you've got
part of the context, folks. Part of the context.
You also have, prior to Hickman going down, 6 different injuries on the offensive line. Yeah. I think Isaiah Autry-Dent, who is a freshman, he was a guy who was pushing, in camp. He's out for a couple weeks. He should be back here soon. So, Jake Taylor's going to start that spot. Spencer Brown's going to need to come in and spell him. And so, again, you got to have him come in and continue to improve. How does he improve? And it's the entire line. The chemistry thing is a tough situation, just because when you move 3 different linemen around, 8 snaps into the game,
right? Right.
So
and I mean, again, I think that the context that you start talking about with that is okay. Well, Spencer Brown was not this. He's not in the too deep for that position, right? Garen Hatchet, not also, or Hatcher, I mean,
Hatchet,
not in the, Hatchet, right? Yeah, I always get that stupid name wrong. It's Branson Hickman is the starter, but Garen Hatchet's the backup right guard. He's not even showing as a center, right? So at best, he's a third stringer for that, and it's kind of an emergency situation. Okay, I get it. That's definitely not a lineup that you've probably seen a ton, even in practice. So how could they have a lot of, it just doesn't seem like it was a situation that they were going to perform great, but they wanted to find out what they could get out of them in emergency situations. And why wouldn't you do that against a team that has nothing for you?
And I mean, Temple's going to be horrid on offense. Absolutely horrid on offense. That's not even up for debate. I don't think that they have any difference makers. I mean, obviously you bring in an ex-track athlete and bring him out. Their largest play of the game was 28 yards, and kind of on a deal to where one of your first year, playing guys with Lewis Carter didn't drop deep enough. He drops deep enough, that's an interception.
Yep.
But you're going to see teams this year when you're playing in that type of design to where you're playing within 25 yards of everything, everybody is right there up on the line. And you had 8 and 9 people in the box throughout the whole entire game. It's going to, it's,
They didn't have
I got a
anything
story.
else they could do, right? They did nothing else they could do if you're Temple.
No. And so I will say this is, as you throw the ball down, you're going to loosen it up. There's other things that you can do to keep the defensive linemen from just teeing off on run blitzes all the time. I will say this: it's with some of the speed option that you saw at the end of the game between Tatum and Hawkins, Jackson Arnold can do that too. We went for a speed option at one point, and we had a tight end not really hit the block like they're supposed to. But you also can toss out. You also can do some stuff in the running back pass game. You're going to see a little bit more of the the wide receiver to the tunnel screens. All that stuff loosens those guys up, and they kind of have to pause half a second. We weren't even setting that up, and so I say all that to say this is we're going to see something different. And I would encourage people not to overreact this week if we go out and just rail folks. So again, keep it in context. It's going to have to you're going to have to keep that way. But in the comment where the quarterback was terrified, there was one point. Neilio, thanks, man.
Neilio, see you soon.
There was one point where one of the offensive linemen for Temple, they came over the sideline, and I think that he was one of the interior guys, but the guy yelled, "Nah, you go out there." And I mean, he yelled it at, I guess, I don't know if it was a coach or if it was an injured player, but I think they were trying to get some encouragement. I mean, they were in a certain state of mind. And right. I've never, you saw, what was it? Who was the coach last year? It was early in the season. Yeah, went down on the sideline, and we looked like we just took his soul. And
it was
Butch Jones.
Butch Jones. He was crying at the
yeah.
Crying.
He's, that's
soul,
tough.
He said took his soul.
It's tough, but that defensive, the coach at Temple, they were god awful, last year, and they're going to be pretty bad again this year. But I will say one thing is that their defense, they were in alignment. We didn't do any motion. We weren't moving guys around, so they could just line up and go. And they were in position quite often, and it was great. I think the first time that I saw any of their, defenders actually just go completely out of position was the big run by Sam Franklin. And their inside linebacker just didn't move, and so it was that's good. That's what you want. I mean, it was a scrimmage for this team, and it was to, again, like you said multiple times, find out what we got here, what's going to happen. And back to my original point is Jackson Arnold did a great job with all that chaos sitting right in front of him.
Man, he did. Again. 4 drop passes that were not one of them didn't hit the hands of the receiver in stride where it was supposed to be. He didn't have to. It's not like he had to, any of them that they had to do anything crazy to get their hands on the ball. It was on the money. So it's 21-25 if they just make the catch, right?
Yeah. And I would like to see. I mean, I would like to see, with
Murray State either, Rob. I don't know that they were, but might have been. Might have been a little bit.
I don't know. I mean, that's like I don't know. Listen, no Murray State or no Akron or no Temple fans are going to be making outrageous claims on Twitter anytime soon.
No, and it's like Rob said here. He said on Monday, Temple's scheme was good. They didn't have the Jimmies and Joes. No, they got a coach from Texas that he's a well-respected coach. He went and got some guys from like Blinn and some of these places that you got to go kind of get started at and get to some of these guys, particularly for a place like that. But it takes time. It took Matt Rule time.
Yeah.
It took him time at Temple. Now he won at Temple, which is rare. But he won there. But it took him time to do it too. And he's one of the better coaches in the country. We know that. So I think that they've got, they just don't have the Jimmy G and Joes yet, but and that's also when this game was scheduled, was when he was the coach there. So it was, it is what it is.
And one thing that we've seen as Oklahoma fans is how often did we, and I'll get to that here in a second.
Yeah, okay.
How often as Oklahoma fans did we see somebody on offense or somebody on defense that everybody was after the game be like, man, that guy's a good player. Like, that's going to be an NFL player. And that's why he just pretty much had his way with our team.
Sure.
None of that came out of that game.
Nothing.
There was
there's always nobody a guy somewhere, right? That usually is going to be pretty good.
There's always, whether on defense, it's a wide receiver or a tight end or running back that averages 7 yards a carry. Like, there's always somebody who looks like a damn Heisman contender after playing us or while playing us. And then the next week he goes, 5 for 44 and, 9 interceptions. And you're like, oh, well, never mind.
Yeah, I get it. True.
Jason,
but you're not wrong, but until now, go ahead.
I want to hear your, idea, your thoughts on Steven's question.
Why a vanilla playbook? Because you didn't need to you could have installed an entirely new offense this week that did nothing like anything else you've done the entire fall or spring, and it wouldn't have freaking mattered. But what you don't want to do is show anything for Tennessee. You do not want to give a defense that has the potential to be pretty good, but you don't want to give them anything to look at. You want to save your surprises for the big game. And that's it. It's going to be vanilla this week too, folks. It just is.
Yeah.
That's my thought. I mean, it's what we saw. We've seen it. We saw it with Levy too. You don't see shit the entire first 3 weeks. You're just not going to see it.
And I think that the chemistry between Deion Burks and Jackson Arnold is already there. So this next comment is kind of addresses that. But
yes,
Tennessee, Nico looked great.
He did.
But now everybody can go in and take a look at that film and go, oh, we need to really pay attention to Thornton, or we need to watch this because Nico has this. Like, you put those things on film. Now a coaching staff has that stuff to look at, and we want to continue to to work on certain things. This was all about Jackson.
We are talking bad about Jackson instead, right?
Oh yeah, it's and listen, I don't care if we win a game, 21-10. That I don't care. I don't care. I mean, listen, nobody. Does anybody claim that we didn't dominate Florida State in the championship game in 2000? No, nobody says that. We won 13-2. They got their 2 for a strategic safety.
Thank you. I've been saying this for a while now. Thank you. But
so if you win that, now I'm not claiming Oklahoma's prepping up for a national championship run at this point, because I still want to see the offensive line do better. There were guys like Fabichi Wewu who could have played a lot better. He was off assignment several times. So I think just staying vanilla is going to. Yeah, I think that we're going to see it openly. I think we're going to see it open up a lot better. They're going to do that, but you're going to continue to have this, just basic game plan. I think that you answered a question, internally of, does Jackson Arnold have the capability to throw the ball in tight windows and keep it out of someone's hands? Yes, you do. Unfortunately, on defense, you can play vanilla and not see certain things, but the outside of Kendall Dolby blitzing because he had no person to cover. I mean, you didn't see a bunch of stunts. You didn't see a lot of exotic blitzes that Venables is famous for. That was a straight up defense. That is line up, get in your spot, and go. And that's what happened.
No blitz, no nothing.
Yeah, listen. I know you muted him, but I mean, if you just come out and you're just saying stupid ass stuff after
I'm sick of him. I'm sick of him. That's all he's done for. I mean, it's not even. You know what I mean? Benji comes in here, and I mean, he goes back and forth with you a little bit, but he at least has something smart to say. Bevo's bodyguard is a freaking moron. It is what it is. Don't come in here with that shit.
But the brand has
Especially when
finally
you got
returned.
this.
F your brand.
No, it's if you're a different team. I mean, if you're a fan of a different team and you want to come in here and ask us questions about your stuff, I love conversation. Let's have a conversation.
Yeah,
If you just want to come in here and
don't be a dickhead. That's the whole thing. Sorry.
Andy, listen, I've watched a couple of Orange Bloods podcasts and stuff. I can't tolerate it, but I've gone in there and taken a look. I mean, if I was just in there dropping out like, Michigan's going to beat Texas 77-0 tomorrow, nobody thinks I'm smart.
Realistically, they're
realize what I am
in the SEC. Shut up, dude. I think there's a better chance for freaking Texas to start 0-3 in the SEC. And I don't think that there's a very good chance of that, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah,
not with that schedule. They should be pretty good, man. They should be pretty good. I still think they go 8-4. I've told people why, and I'm going to stick to it. There are some games that I mean, this weekend is a game that can be tough for Texas. It can.
Listen, the Michigan quarterback play.
Styles make
Michigan quarterback play is
that could be a problem. Brutal.
It's
right.
It's pretty rough at Michigan, but again, I think that we're going to see what happens with this team without folks out running around, filming practices, and it's crazy. Just the duplicity of some of the narratives around college football cracks me up, because you had half of the country saying, oh, let's see here. Michigan they've recruited really, really well, and now we're going to see, they're just going to reload. And what was Michigan? I mean, they were a top team in the country, and nobody mentioned roster turnover at all. Well, they struggled a tad bit against Fresno State, and then you turn around and it's like, well, they're going to deal with roster turnover. Like, come on now. Like, if you really, really study the game, a lot of teams are going to struggle with roster turnover. And you're not going. I mean, look at LSU and USC. That game was a great game, but after 1 week, how do you know if it was just two inept offenses who couldn't do anything, or if it was two improved defenses? Do I think USC's defense is better? They didn't have much room to go down. So yeah, it does look like they did better. Deontay Lynn has done a really, really great.
They did
job right there.
You got to give them props to some extent, right?
Yeah, the nutrition. You just didn't have guys running around clueless, but at the same time, I mean, I didn't see much out of LSU, and that vaunted, offensive line. They didn't look good, and but it's week one. Like, you can't overreact. I said that before the game. Or unless somebody just goes out and routes like 42-6, you're not gonna be able to see any of that stuff.
Right. No, I get it. Yeah, let's see. Hey, Bloody Guns, man, you're a little bit late. We're about to get out of here, so got a couple minutes left. We got one or two more things we can talk about, but yeah, guys, in the end, okay, cool. In the end, I just wanted to kind of talk about that, because it's been so much. I mean, even we did the after the game show, me and Coach did the other night. Glad to be back and just kind of doing this stuff for sure. But I would tell you that we did that, and you just got a lot of. And it's always the loud ones, right? There's a few of them that have been in here, but most of them are not folks that are in our chats, when we're going live. It's always afterwards, it seems like, right? And that's kind of normal. But the only one that really, I mean, like I said, when I got the one in the DMs, and it wasn't from Nelio, I was like, whoa, that's not what I said. And I don't think that they didn't really say that they heard it here, heard it there, or whatever. And I was just like, who is this guy? And I was like, what, are you getting the idea that I don't like Michael Hawkins? Because I like Michael Hawkins, and I've been on Michael Hawkins for 2 years. I've been saying when he was a 3-star and nobody gave a shit about him, that I was like, dude, this guy's that guy. Watch the film. You see it. He had 55 touchdowns and like less than 5 turnovers the whole year last year. Took a school that having its first senior class to the semifinals in 5A and lost to South Oak Cliff, who won their second straight state championship. One of the best programs in the state. You got to look at it in there's a lot of different lights that you have to look at it in. But the bottom line was you have to also say that if you take this job away from Jackson Arnold without him losing it somehow, whether it be to injury or to poor play, then that's not helping your culture or your quarterback room. You're not going to continue getting these guys if you do that kind of stuff. There's a delicate balance to all of this, and context matters. There's a lot of different things that have to happen for that to go right. Or you could be like Lincoln was in the last year that he was at Oklahoma, and he was doing everything he could to fuck the whole thing up. He waited to pull Spencer out till it was 28-7. The year before that, they were down, 3? And they pulled his ass out. I mean, I think that was right. They didn't wait till it was down 21, and he had freaking 3 turnovers already. But yeah, I got to run 2 guys. Some of these guys look decent. I think that the other thing is we can't overreact to week 1 or week 2. And if they're not getting better from week to week, that's when you start worrying. There's got to be room to improve. They've got to have places to improve. It's nice to have a few things to talk about but you won 55-3. And the last thing I would say is what we don't need is for somebody to have to be Baker Mayfield or Kyler Murray for Oklahoma to have a chance to win. The race to 50 is not how you win natties. It's being able to win 13-2 games.
Listen, it's not, and you got to have a defense. Like, it's absolute what you have to do. You cannot. I mean, we saw it. If we had last year's defense in 2017, 2018, that's different. It's a different scenario, but it was literally just hold on for dear life from a defensive scheme. And, I'd say that the last thing is props to Lincoln Riley. It looks like it took him a few years to realize it, but it looks like he made some tough choices. And I've said it on your show, Jason, as a fan base, you have to demand better. Missouri looked great in their game. I mean, gave up 85 yards of total offense.
They kicked the shit out of Murray State, man.
You got to have a defense. You can't play in the SEC and have any hopes, because the defense and the running games are going to be the 2 things that travel no matter what.
And when we've talked about if we think that there's something going to be wrong with Texas, they're replacing a lot of guys from the offense. The offensive line's intact and they got their quarterback back. They're probably going to be okay on offense, right? My concern if I'm Texas is defense all the way around, especially in the middle of the defense, on the defensive line and in the back end. That's not an issue that Oklahoma should have this year. What did you think? Before I let you get out of here, because we got to get. What did you think about that Teddy said that about Michael Boganowski? He played with Roy, and he said that about Michael Boganowski. Game 1.
Because I think that you see the cape. I mean, he's seen practice, and you've seen Roy Williams was not great in coverage. And that's, as the offense in NFL changed, it was the same. I mean, it was a big concern for him as he got later in the years. He was a
linebacker.
He was essentially a linebacker. And now the NFL in college football, it's different. You got to have some capabilities of coverage. And that's where the difference between a Kip Lewis and a Kobe McKenzie is right now is, I think Kip is more adept in coverage, whereas Kobe's still learning. So, both of those guys, Boganowski I don't know if he thinks about what happens if he hits somebody really hard to his own body. So he's got no regard. I mean, you saw the last time we saw that from a safety is probably Brendan Everidge, and Brendan Everidge faced. I mean, we all know Matt McCoy's name because of Brendan Everidge.
We do.
And Brendan Everidge was a guy who dealt with shoulders his entire career and neck, and so. But Bogo's going to be crazy, and knowing his dad the way that I do, I can promise you this.
I love you.
is if Boganowski played in Kansas City, he's a 5-star.
Absolutely. No doubt. No doubt. Yeah, I love that story that he tells. Coop, tell everybody how to find you. Got to get out of here, but appreciate you coming in. I do have one more thing I want to do, guys, before we get out of here. I don't let Coop go ahead because it's gonna take up all
Your,
the space.
your meme of the day. So yeah, it's Unfair Sports or Sooner or Later podcast. You can check us out. Jay and I will be going live tonight, 9 p.m. We switch Wednesdays to 9 o'clock. And so we'll be live at 9 tonight, 6 o'clock on Sunday nights. And also just check us running around the games.
Heck yeah, man. I appreciate you coming in, dude. I'll give you a holler here this afternoon if you're not too busy.
Do it.
Cool. Thanks for coming in, Coop. Talk to you soon.
Later, brother.
Eric Cooper from Unfair Sports. One of my favorite dudes around. All right. Last thing of the day. I want to start doing this. The meme of the day, the meme of the week, the meme of the month. I just want to make sure you guys check out our want you guys to check out our Discord and jump in there. Obviously, I said the link is in the description, but the first meme of the day is actually from a few days ago from old Hangster. Man, I cried laughing when I saw this one. So that's my meme of the day for this one. Just, you know, it does make a huge difference if it's in somebody else's mashed potatoes. Enjoy. Folks, I appreciate everybody coming in. Love all you guys. Appreciate it. Why do I hate? I don't hate Michael Hawkins. That's hilarious. I live by that, he says. Listen, man, you know, some of us have to. I get it. Right on. Thank you, Kimberly K. Thanks, everybody, for coming in. Rob Hill. We've had a bunch of folks in here for the entirety of the show. We appreciate that. Thanks for the meme of the day there. You guys get in there into the Discord and see if you can win it too. The meme of the month, I'm going to give away a t-shirt. So this month is just getting started. We'll have one each one of our morning shows, a day one, and then either we'll do a week one or the month. But the meme of the month, we'll give away a t-shirt. We may give away more than one. Just kind of depends on how we're doing it. If we get a lot of participation, but get in there and throw out some cool memes. I think it's funny. I enjoy stuff like that. We just want to make sure that we get more participation in there than that. So cool stuff. I can't reach the masters. All right. See, I knew that's where we were going to go. Thank you, T Boomer. Thank you, everybody. Kimberly K, Scott V, Hangster, Lou Becker. Glad to have you guys in here. All you folks that were new in there today, appreciate you coming. I hope you became a subscriber. We'd love to get to 4,000. Jump into our Nelia was asking about the hat that I'm wearing right now. Get it right on our Fanatics Superstore, hofmedia.us/Fanatics, right there at the bottom right hand of your screen. hofmedia.us/Fanatics. You'll get a better deal than you'll get just going to Fanatics on your own. A lot of times, I think today is actually free shipping. I actually ordered another one that I really like today. So I'm getting free shipping on it. Make sure you get over there and check it out. If you want some of our official show merchandise, it's hofmedia.us/pod-merch. That is our stuff that we do. It's our, our own designs. We've got horns down gear out the wazoo, the famous coach saying he don't give a blank. And, Texas Fears, Oklahoma. That's one of them. One of the ones I really like, and it's got the state of Oklahoma on it, but it says it always meant more in Oklahoma. So kind of a play off that SEC deal. Get in there and check it out. We've got t-shirts and hats, all that kind of stuff. If you have designs that you'd like to see, let us know. We'll work on it. Appreciate it, guys. What? Oh no, really? That's crazy. Thanks, T-Boomer. Hey, thanks for the heads up on that. Make sure we're praying for those folks out there. That's insanity. I hate that. All right, man. Thank you, Rob Hill. Getting the membership, jump in with us and do all that kind of stuff. We appreciate it. If you want, the main way to help us is just to make sure you hit that like button to become a subscriber. The more that does that, the more people that do that, the more people get an opportunity to see the show because the algorithm pushes the content more. If you do want to change your mobile service, trymintmobile.com, man. You get 3 months of unlimited talk, text, and data on the nation's largest 5G network for just $45. That's $15 a month. Try it out with the phone service that you have on the phone that you already have. You don't have to switch it over, but I'm saving over $1,600 this year on 2 phones that I pay for. It's a great job. It's a great deal for everybody, and it's on the best. I was with Verizon before, so I made the switch. I think you would probably like it too, and it's good it definitely helps out the show. But man, it's a lot of money to save from month to month. It puts a lot of money back in your pocket. Anyway, as I said, Freeway, just hit the like. Appreciate everybody coming in. We will see you all on the next one.